As always, we're here to criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research, obviously. Welcome to the stream. Good morning, Grace. I really didn't watch hardly any streams yesterday, so I really don't have any news updates for you, unfortunately. I did watch Bethadone's video that she posted last night, and she did address her lower torso tattoo, which is not a Stone Cold Steve Austin skull or an octopus, but a three goddess tattoo, which only, by the way, three goddesses can have. So that's something. She's got that going for her. And then she also said she is going to do a pajama try-on video, so there's that. And that's it. What else? Jimmy is out in the cold. There's now like an exposing Jimmy LeMaster YouTube account making like shorts talking about Jimmy for some reason. But anyway, from what I can tell, it looks like everybody was still pretty much in the same drama as the day before. What's up, King TL? What's up, South to West? But yeah, I didn't really watch. I'm trying to think if I watched anybody yesterday. I don't think so, yeah. Jimmy dead? Wow, yeah, he was, I don't know what's going on with that guy. Oh my gosh. But yeah. What a spectacle. TK home, now let's eat. Are you gonna make a frozen pizza? Oh my god, after I ended the live last night when I was at that gift shop, that woman that kept talking to me, like, I'm not saying this in a negative way at all, but like I should have kept streaming. Like, she kept talking to me and telling me all this stuff. She told me about, like, they have this party every year in September where they go to like some lake or something, and everybody gets high, and then they have like a commemorative T-shirt for it or something like that. So I don't know. It was a lot. All right. Well, anyway, today we've got we're gonna go back into sightings, and for sure we've got episodes about the Bermuda Triangle. We've got an episode about UFO sightings and an episode about cryptids and other weird animals. So let's jump in, and then we can discuss as we go.
Deals with a controversial subject. The theories expressed are not the only possible interpretation. The viewer is invited to make a judgment based on all available information. Tonight, on Sightings, Stonehenge, the pyramids, the Bermuda Triangle. Do these places possess deadly mystical powers?
Once you experience it, you have a lot of respect for it.
Are these unexplainable phenomena proof of a greater force?
They're somehow produced by the Earth itself.
Or are they a result of extraterrestrial contact?
It seems strange. So many huge markings were made on the Earth.
At that point, it started to appear.
They had
In stereo, why not mono?
large, dark eyes, claw-like hands.
I began sensing and knowing and feeling.
I do believe in life after death. I mean, I've been there.
We have not scratched the surface of what the mind can do.
It's a connection with the unknown.
What is the purpose of immense stones carefully arranged on an English country plain? Why are there earthen mounds in this?
I remember it, and I think I saw like an episode here and there, but I definitely, like, if I would have known, like, I feel like based off the first two episodes, if I would have known it was as good, I probably would have like watched it regularly. But for some reason, I always kind of thought it was kind of like a jank show.
Southeastern United States. Who built great granite pyramids
Bad eye
in
on
the
my
jungles
part.
of Central America? How these places were created remains a mystery. But perhaps the greater mystery is why these places continue to fascinate us on such a profound level. The great forces of the Earth. Some are familiar and essential, such as the force of gravity or the dramatic forces of nature. But then there are darker, mysterious forces, feared and revered by ancient cultures. Strange energies that science is still at a loss to explain. The forces of the Earth are full of bizarre quirks that can cause destruction, even death. 25 degrees north latitude, 70 degrees
Only a nug or two?
west longitude, the center of one of the most mysterious places on Earth, a so-called energy vortex of destruction. It's called the Bermuda Triangle. For 500 years, since Christopher Columbus first wrote about seeing weird phenomena here, more than 1,000 ships and planes have disappeared without a trace.
We have no evidence whatsoever that makes the region described as the Bermuda Triangle any more dangerous than any other set of waters in the world.
But that wasn't the case for Flight 19. December 5th, 1945, 2
Flight
p.m.
19.
5 Navy Avenger bombers leave Fort Lauderdale, Florida, on a routine training mission. The pilots and crew are all experienced airmen. The day is clear and mild. But at 4 p.m., the Avengers begin sending out distress calls. Then, abruptly, the SOS calls stop. The crewmen are never heard from again. This missing squadron, known as Flight 19, becomes one of the greatest air mysteries of all time. 5 planes and 13 airmen vanish in the Bermuda Triangle. Did a sudden change in weather cause
So 5 planes, over a dozen servicemen, right? All lost in one swoop. What do you think?
the disappearance of Flight 19? Did they run into a bizarre geomagnetic force field? Or was it pilot error? But pilot error in all 5 planes at the same time? Virtually impossible. Many theories have been proposed since 1945. The planes were abducted by UFOs, sucked into a parallel universe, or even fell victim to death rays from Atlantis. 45.
Oh, so they found a bunch of. Okay, so they found some planes, but claimed that they weren't like these planes. What's up, Storyweaver Steve? Hey, what's up, Armand?
5 years later, a startling...
Yeah, I think the reason that I didn't watch Sightings at the time was because I thought they were all Alien episodes for some reason. And I was kind of... That's why I was hesitant to do here. I was like, are we really going to watch like episode after episode about aliens? But like the topics are like pretty much like those old Time Life mystery books. Like every episode is just some new weird topic.
Development. In August 1991, a barnacle-encrusted Navy Avenger was recovered from the treacherous Bermuda Triangle. Does this bomber hold clues to the fate of Flight 19?
When this Avenger broke the surface of the ocean, it was the most spectacular thing I'd ever seen in my life. It was like bringing a body out of the ocean. The mystery still lingers. We're still working on it today.
Larry Schwartz.
A group called Project 19 is dedicated to solving the mystery.
Project 19?
But retrieving the Navy plane also means they must work in the deadly Bermuda Triangle.
There are forces out there. There is a sense of energy about you all the time. You don't know what's going to happen out there.
And as the recovery team works to determine if this Avenger...
I remember Cush Clark Kent. I always remember thinking, like, I wasn't really sure that I believed in it, but I sure wasn't going to chance it. I just crossed Bermuda off my visitation list.
...was part of Flight 19. Other sailors and pilots who dared to venture into the Bermuda Triangle continue to be plagued by the frightening phenomena.
I took the controls of the PBY about 2 hours out of Bermuda, and it really was a beautiful day. It was
as I say, we could not see the wingtips of the airplane.
It was like flying in a tube going through this stuff, and it never dawned on me I was in the Bermuda Triangle.
On June 11th, 1986, Martin Caden and his wife Dee Dee were part of a flight commemorating the history of a PBY flying boat called the Catalina. The Cadens...
I took an edible about half an hour ago, but it's only like 10 milligrams, so it's probably just going to sedate me a little bit.
...are both seasoned pilots with over 50 years of experience between them. On June 11th, Dee Dee was at the controls. Suddenly, all the plane's instruments stopped functioning.
The magnetic compass was spinning. It was totally useless. We had nothing from the outside world.
What a great cry on. Dee Dee Caden, Bermuda Triangle survivor.
We were in limbo.
We believe there was a tremendous electromagnetic effect. We don't know for sure, but we had $2 million worth of the world's finest electronic
Oh my God, is this her dad?
Instruments just completely crap out on us.
Outside the window of the plane, it looked like you were flying an eggnog. It looked like flying through, like in a lemon meringue pie.
You lose all reference to what's right, what's left, what's up, what's down, and many
My edible's probably going to kick in around like the cryptid episode.
airplanes go into an uncontrolled spin and just come out of the sky and smash into the ocean.
It was very sudden when we came out.
Yeah, finding a random nug is always like amazing. I found like an almost complete eighth under my couch one time, and I was like, it was like one of the best feelings ever.
Out of it. And it was about an hour, maybe an hour and a half out of Jacksonville that it cleared up.
That's her husband. What a lucky man. He's really swinging above his weight.
And little by little, all the instruments began to come back online. The gyros stopped spinning, the magnetic compass settled down, and all the electronic devices came back in and were working perfectly.
Martin and Dee Dee Caden survived because of sheer luck. Perhaps, like the Cadens, Flight 19's instruments failed, but the pilot's luck ran out. If that's true, then what is the source of a force powerful enough to make technology useless?
It's hard for science to go out there and document it and dissect it because it doesn't happen all the time. But boy, once you experience it, you have a lot of respect for it. It's dangerous.
We feel the unpredictable forces of the Earth in the violent eruption of a volcano or a sudden high-magnitude earthquake. These events remind...
I think you have to, like, if you want to believe in the Bermuda Triangle, you have to kind of, like, accept that lots of things just pass through there, like, with no problem at all. So it's just, like, those, like, rare instances, but, yeah.
Remind us of the tremendous energy smoldering just beneath our feet. Might this energy build to such an intensity that it could transform the entire Earth in an instant?
It's 2 p.m. in Los Angeles, and you're stuck on the freeway. Just outside Omaha, it's 4 p.m., and you're finishing up the day's farm work. It's 5 p.m. in New York City, and you're on your way home. Then, at exactly the same instant in time, everyone in the United States, everyone on the planet, shares one fatal experience, an unspeakable catastrophe. On May 5th, in the year 2000, the entire Earth turns on its side.
On 5/5/2000, should the polar ice cap go in motion, the first thing that will happen will be tremendous earthquakes worldwide.
Okay, so am I to understand, this is a 90s series, so they're predicting that in the year 2000, the Earth is going to flip onto its side because of the polar ice caps shifting? That's an interesting theory.
Gigantic, 8, 9,
We'll have to see how it pans out.
and 10 on the Richter scale. And at the same time, volcanic activity erupting around the size.
Hey, Jabberjaw, glad to hear it, buddy. I'm glad it's bringing back good memories.
Regions of the Earth. And the wind, as the Earth shifts, will rage wildly trying to seek a new equilibrium so that the wind speeds of 200-300 miles an hour will literally destroy most dwellings on the surface.
Is it possible for the Earth to turn on its side? Could Los Angeles become the new South Pole?
South to west, yes. I was talking the other day, I didn't know, I forgot the exact term for it, but yeah, ley lines. There's a documentary starring Richard Stanley, the director, and he talks about how he moved to this specific place because of there were so many like ley lines in that area that were like all meeting at the same point, and he thought that he could use that point to kind of like open up a portal into another dimension. It's a really interesting documentary.
Yes, says author Richard Noon. His research indicates that a polar shift is not just possible, it's inevitable, caused by a massive accumulation of ice at the South Pole.
Well, I mean, if you were watching it at the time, you were like, oh my God, the world's going to turn onto its side in a few years. I'd better, blast off while I can.
A theory introduced in part by
Remember that guy, at Vesuvius, where they found him like encased in whatever, and he had used his last minutes to jerk one out?
Einstein.
Einstein found that the weight of the ice, the mass, it could be stone, ice, junk cars, whatever, it takes approximately 1,700 pounds.
This guy kind of looks like Alan West.
Pounds of pressure per square inch to fracture the rock, most of it's sedimentary rock in Antarctica anyway. As the ice increases in height and size, the weight of it is beyond human comprehension. And it pressed.
Remember that great episode of Art Bell where they were talking about the people that got stuck in the Remember they got like stuck in the aircraft carrier? They got like caught between, they like came back to this dimension but at the wrong coordinates and ended up like stuck in the bridge or on the like deck of an aircraft carrier.
It depresses the ground under the ice. The ground under the ice, in turn, squeezes out the plastic viscous molten material underneath. And that viscous molten material has to go somewhere. And it moves through the Earth's fault lines. And this creates more earthquake and volcanic activity, which is what you see today.
Many highly active volcanoes have erupted since Mount St. Helens in 1980. And in a recent one-month period, 5 earthquakes of a 6.5 magnitude or greater have shifted the Earth worldwide.
We're in the middle of an environmental collapse. A shift of the crust of the Earth takes approximately 3 days to complete, and with it, the destruction of most places on Earth.
Within a 3-day period, everything that we now take for granted could violently disappear. The skyscrapers of Los Angeles, gone.
Yeah, that's it, King. They made a movie too. I watched it a long time ago. It was an okay movie, but it wasn't as like interesting as you think it would be for that topic.
Golden Gate Bridge, twisted wreckage covered in ice. The Washington Monument, a mass of rubble. This is just one man's...
Remember the guy who, which I watched this documentary on simulation theory. I don't know if you kind of call it a documentary, but whatever. It's called The Glitch in the Matrix, and they always replay well, they don't always. It's the same fucking movie. I'm just high, but they have the clip in that where the guy steals the plane and then flies it up, and you can hear him talking to the people in the like tower, and he's like, I mean, like, you know, he can't land up, like, you know, he's gonna die, but he's like still like, just the time that he's talking to him after he does that is so wild. It has like a weird ethereal quality to it.
Theory, but the buildup of ice at the poles is one fact in Noon's theory confirmed by some geologists.
Presently, ice does build up at the South Pole, but it doesn't build up arbitrarily high because the Earth's crust is plastic and it warps down as a consequence of the weight of the new snow and ice that's being piled up. So in reality, the whole depth of the ice cap doesn't get all that much bigger than it is right now.
And what about the greenhouse effect? Haven't aerosol cans and industrial pollution created a hole in the ozone layer that's warming the Earth and melting polar ice?
What happens is, at least early on in a warming situation on the Earth,
that whole documentary, A Glitch in the Matrix, is like, it's not going to make anybody believe in simulation theory or anything, but it's just such a weird vibe documentary. Like, it's like extremely unsettling, but then it's also like, it's like a comfort movie for me. Kind of like the Heaven's Gate HBO docuseries. Like, that's really disturbing, but like for some reason it's like super comforting to me.
the natural convection currents in the atmosphere itself carry that warm, moist air to the poles where the moisture condenses and falls as snow.
Geology, the publication of the Geological Society of America, has recently published research that adds some substance to Noon's theory. But the idea...
That's okay, King. Lots of people get mad at science.
...of a radical, instantaneous polar shift is still considered extremely controversial.
King TL, I'm mad at science.
The theory that's proposed here is the entire crust slides around catastrophically.
Richard Terrible.
And there's really no geologic evidence. There's no any kind of climatic, geochemical, geophysical evidence that shows that that's even possible.
The supposed trigger for this global nightmare will be a rare alignment of all 9 planets on May 5th, 2000, just 8 years from now. Noon believes this will be the fatal gravitational yank on the planet. A preposterous theory? Perhaps. But just remember, only 40 years ago, no one believed the universe began with a big bang. Today, it's scientific fact.
Coming up, a woman who claims to have witnessed unexplainable natural phenomena.
I saw this beautiful ball of light in the sky.
Certain sites fascinate us because we don't know who created them or even why they're there.
Well, yeah, get ready for Y2K.
And then there are even more enigmatic places where
the yank of a lifetime.
Strange phenomena are believed to reveal themselves again.
That's the Vesuvius guy. He had the yank of a lifetime. Do you think in the time before he was overtaken by the lava that he was able to nut, or do you think it was like a forever? Did he think he got forever blue balled?
Again and again. Massive prehistoric stone monuments. Many people experience a strange feeling of fascination at these sites. It may be the same type of feeling.
Did you guys see that flat Earth guy in the UFC got choked out? And the guy who fought him, when they had the press conference before the fight, brought a globe out.
That inspired the ancients to create them in the first place. When visitors have strange, unsettling feelings, some scientists believe they could be a real physical reaction to unusually high levels of radiation or electromagnetism emanating from the Earth.
These places have been deliberately placed in these locations of great natural power and energy, and that all the stone circles in England and Wales that we've...
You know where I bet there are a shit ton of ley lines all over the place? The Big E. You know that place is rich with, like, supernatural energy.
Closely checked, all occur either immediately alongside a geological fault line or in a very close proximity. And we find this sort of pattern throughout the world where we've been able to check it. And it tells us that people did choose specific areas of the Earth's surface because they had certain energetic properties.
Yeah, remember, in European Vacation. Remember remember when Russ met that, like, beer garden chick? That was like one of the first times I saw tits in a movie, I think.
About them.
Paul Devereaux is a researcher in the field of Earth mysteries. He investigates the secret energies present at ancient sites, like this bizarre collection of immense stones known as the Avebury Henge, erected 4,000 years ago. For the last 10 years...
The Big E King, remember when Grace did the Hooplandia stream? That's the Big E. George Doronda on Primetime does a ton of shit live from the Big E.
There have been many reports of unusual lights hovering overhead. They're clearly not UFOs, but frightening apparitions created right here on Earth. Lifelong Avebury resident Heather Garland came face to face with the lights on a clear night in 1987.
I saw this beautiful ball of light in the sky, and I thought, oh, lovely full moon, because I love the full moon and starry night. And I watched it and I thought, oh no, ye gods, it's not the full moon. The moon comes in the opposite direction. When it got to the stones, it turned and started coming towards me, and with that it came right down to the grass and just went out.
Shout out to Nikki New, who was always bragging about how she's an all-night kind of gal.
These lights, nobody knows
big ups
what they are. They're rather exotic phenomena. They're not UFOs, they're not flying saucers. They're somehow produced by the Earth itself. I call them Earth lights.
Near the seaside town of Penzance in southwest England, a mysterious light phenomenon has been seen.
What's up? It's me. I saw you commented when I said my high was cresting in the blacklight room.
At this 3,000-year-old subterranean chamber known as the...
I'm going to go back and ask that lady to give me, like, I'll record it instead of doing it live, but I'll see if she'll give me, like, a full tour of the place, like a guided tour.
Bole Fugu. It continues to mystify visitors. Joe May is a teacher in Penzance and spent a night in the dark underground cavern in June 1988.
Just before the point of dawn, I was
Joe
awake,
May.
and I thought I could see spiraling movements, is the only way I could describe them. A sort of soup of spirals swirling around. And they were very like the shapes on the tips of your fingers. They suddenly exploded into stars. There were lots of little pinpricks of light in with them, flowing around.
Swirling carvings found in primitive dwellings around the world bear an uncanny resemblance to the site Joe May describes. Could that mean that people saw these same lights 3,000 years ago?
This looks like some shit out of Borderlands.
Another resident of Penzance, artist Gabrielle Hawks, is drawn to the Bole Fugu by its mysterious energy.
It happened some years ago when I was camping in the grounds here. I came into the Fugu.
This lady, to me, just based off of what I saw of her so far, seems like a character. Remember that show Little Britain? She reminds me of, like, she would be a character on that show.
dark and dank and mysterious as usual.
Dank, fuck yeah.
I kind of began to lose myself in a way, so a feeling of timelessness for a few seconds. And then, quite suddenly, it was as though a scene unfolded in front of me. It consisted of a scene in bright daylight of a church and a churchyard. I remember the colours were very bright. In some ways it was like a dream, but at the same time I was very much awake. I was aware of standing there thinking, well, this is extremely odd, you know, what is going on?
What's going on?
Do these strange Earth energies explain why ancient peoples selected these locations for their monuments? Perhaps we are, in the late 20th century, beginning to understand scientifically what our ancestors understood intuitively about the potent energies of the Earth.
Coming up, are these land markings a result of extraterrestrial contact?
No one knows exactly what intelligence was behind it.
I believe her. She seems trustworthy.
The surface of the Earth covers 196,800,000 square miles. And even though
I was wondering if she didn't just stay too long in the cave and like the natural like OPC-esque mold aura, fungus aura inside the cave like tripped her mind out.
Each square mile has been mapped and scrutinized. There are still places of mystery that defy explanation. The ancient Nazca Indians of Peru.
We need Get Crack for me to fund a show where he sends King TL to all these different locations to investigate.
Covered their arid landscape with enormous, precise drawings carved into the rocky desert floor. Photographer Marilyn Bridges came here in 1976. That first journey to Nazca changed her life forever. She's driven by her need to understand what drove the ancient Nazcas to create these designs 2,000 years ago.
I feel like I've had a calling in a way. I did photography from the ground for a long time.
Grace's
and
Triangle,
when I was in Peru, I heard about these lines of Nazca, markings that were so huge that you could only see them from the air. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I gave myself this mission to photograph these and bring them back and share them with people. To say, look, this is what ancient man was doing with the land. Maybe something can be deciphered.
Perhaps most puzzling of all, why are the hundreds of designs here so enormous? There are animal figures more than 400 feet long. Some patterns extend for over a half mile. Since the Nazca couldn't fly, who were they trying to reach out to with these huge designs?
I'm looking at a lot of these markings and structures as if a god would look at them.
Drawings for the eyes of the gods is just one theory. Others believe the designs formed an astronomical calendar. But because of their size, some believe these markings were actually...
So they were making they were trying to create something for the eyes of God, but they made like a guy with his dong out. Come on, bro. And a dead
UFO
horse.
landing strips.
It seems strange that about 2,000 to 3,000 years ago, so many huge markings were made on the Earth, whether they were dug into the Earth or raised from the Earth.
Peru isn't the only place Marilyn Bridges has found huge...
I'll be spending my summer at the candelabra of the Andes.
...landmarks visible only from the air. For 20 years, she has tried to capture on film the images that ancient cultures have left behind. It is for her an obsession with deciphering the messages of the past. In this pursuit, she routinely...
King TL, if you were doing artwork that's solely for the eyes of God, would you make it a naked guy?
...risks her life, working from dangerously low altitudes.
My flying is almost aerobatic. We have to slow the plane down to stall speed.
Yeah, exactly. Like some of the ones that are like more geometric in design look really good, but then there was that one of the guy that looked really, really bad.
Sometimes we even go into a stall.
Stalling the plane at an altitude of only 200 feet reveals more than just an intellectual curiosity. It's an irresistible need to understand what ancient people had an irresistible need.
She looks like if she was in like an 80s movie at some point the lead character would notice her shaking her hair out after she takes her headband off, and the main character's like, wow, she was actually an attractive woman the entire time. She was just wearing a bandana.
To create.
There's a point that it strikes inside of people that maybe it takes them back in time to their heritage, to where we've all come from.
You know what? EFD 306 could be the new version. Remember that like meme of that old thing about the guy getting, what was his name? El Nasir, selling like low-grade copper or like low-quality copper. Maybe EFD 306 can be our century's version of that.
Mystical powers are hidden beneath the Black Hills.
Our legends tell us that the Black Hills is the heart of our home, the home of our heart.
For the Lakota Indians, the entire earth is revered, but only one place is truly sacred. They believe the Black Hills of South Dakota are the spiritual heart of the planet.
As I have learned about the Black Hills from other tribes scattered throughout this land, throughout America, or what we call the Turtle Island, what they understand also is that is a center. The Black Hills are a center.
Modern culture has also been drawn to the Black Hills, but for reasons that are far from spiritual. Gold and uranium are mined here, and over 50 million visitors have marveled at its man-made wonders.
Oh, there it is.
The Black Hills booms.
Are you fake Indian? Are you like inspired seeing this? Are you like, as a Dakotan, are you like super proud of Mount Rushmore?
Like a heartbeat. We say it's the heartbeat of the earth. Once mining started heavily in the 1880s, coinciding with the time that we were forbidden to practice our religion, that booming got further and further and further apart.
We're not, with respect to this entity, to this earth, to this mother who gives us everything.
We say that if the heart cannot live,
you hate that place?
Can't live.
I went there one time when I was a teenager, and it was really underwhelming to me because you can't actually get very close to it, and it was like, who gives a shit if it's like way far away from you? Like, big deal.
And we believe.
I went there on vacation with my friend and his family, and we were crossing we passed through there on our way to Canada. And then when we got to the border, I found out that his dad didn't have a valid driver's license, so they had to like pull over before the border to like swap seats.
That protecting the Black Hills has to do with all life, all of the children of the earth. When the Black Hills dies, the earth will die.
A startling photograph taken from space, a God's eye view, so to speak, may prove the Lakota warning is right.
Has OPC Don ever been to Turtle Mountain? No, not right offhand, Joe Shabatoni, that I can think of. I don't remember that. I might have seen him on the show, but I don't remember it, like off the name.
Right. The Black Hills are shaped like a human heart. Primitive cultures and religions worship the earth and man's connection to it. Perhaps by studying their mysterious monuments and seeking an understanding of Earth's unexplained forces, we'll rediscover our own connection to the planet. The distant past may be the key to protecting our immediate future. For Sightings, I'm Tim White. Good night.
Well, there's a lot of people on this show who seem to think like the world is like imminently gonna end.
Next week on Sightings, a UFO investigation team using ultra-sensitive video and laser equipment hunts for UFOs over the California desert. The startling images on an all-new UFO report next week on Sightings.
Executive producer Henry
Tomorrow
Winkler.
night, for the first time ever, you'll see recordings of convicted mobster John Gotti's secret mafia initiation ceremony, taped by the FBI.
Oh, man, we need to see that shit.
Here are the never before...
Wow.
The following program deals with a controversial...
You've been to Space Mountain?
...controversial subject. The theories expressed are not the only possible interpretation. The viewer is invited to make a judgment based on all available information. Tonight on Sightings, has this team of investigators captured proof of UFOs on videotape?
I'm a pure skeptic, and to see what I just saw, I can't be skeptical.
Do the latest cases of abduction reveal frightening alien motives?
Women begin to experience the gynecological examinations done by the aliens on them.
And could our own astronauts face deadly close encounters with alien forces?
Something is out there, and what it is, I don't know.
I'll write down the Gotti thing, and we'll. What was it? Gotti initiation ceremony. I'll find it.
At that point, it started to appear.
They had large, dark eyes, claw-like hands.
I began sensing and knowing and feeling.
I do believe in life after
An alien performed a gynecological examination on my wife.
death. I mean, I've been there.
We have not scratched the surface of what the mind can do.
It's a connection with the unknown.
I think it was the Gotti initiation rituals.
Hello, I'm Tim White. Tonight on Sightings, people who claim to have had personal contact with aliens. They tell bizarre stories of abduction, and they suggest their captors have sinister motives. Most UFO encounters are easily debunked by experts, but there are still many sightings that cannot be explained, even by the most skeptical researchers. UFOs, they've been sighted in every corner of the Earth. Witnesses have captured strange lights and disc-shaped
All right, I've got it on my I've got it in my dossier now, so I'll remember.
objects on film and video. But even before the age of technology, people worldwide were reporting UFOs.
The UFO subject goes back at least 6,000 to 8,000.
Hey, South to West, do you think a lot of people try to be romantic at the four corners? So it's like you're slam and clam in 4 states at the same time?
Years in human history. People have many times pointed to the Christian Bible and the old first 5 books of the Jewish Torah as being examples throughout history of UFO contacts. But what we're seeing today is considered by many to be examples of superior technology from somewhere else, probably another planet.
Some places have become legendary as UFO hotspots. Gulf Breeze, Florida, Roswell, New Mexico. Sightings in these out-of-the-way locations number in the thousands. The next hotspot? According to world-renowned UFO researcher Peter Gutella, this town, Anza, California, has all the earmarks of an extraterrestrial mecca.
And we have animal mutilations, we have abductions, we have close encounters of all degrees. We've had the appearance of mysterious animals. And we've even had some of the so-called Men in Black experiences there.
Uh-oh.
At a local coffee shop, people were willing to share bizarre stories of their UFO.
Well, that's what we watched that one, right? We watched like a double episode of this show about the Gulf Breeze, I think, in the last Learning About Aliens and Ghosts episode.
UFO encounters.
Kind of. I mean, that's the feeling I get. Like,
They revealed that they believe that the Men in Black are actually extraterrestrials.
Oh, wow.
Sighted in deserted areas near the town. Each story is stranger than the last.
And I happened to look through the trees, and I saw this vehicle standing about, just about 60 feet off of the ground. It's like a flying saucer.
Are you talking about like the movie Communion or the book? I saw somebody uploaded, it's hard to keep Communion up on YouTube, it gets taken down a lot, but somebody's had a copy that's been up for a while if you search for Christopher Walken Communion full movie, I think.
It had a dome on the top and a platform around, and a couple of persons walked around walking on air.
Am I reading that
I was
right?
delighted to be able to see such a...
At first I thought it said cum onion. And then I was thinking like a communion, like people would like organize together to protect their orgasmic rights.
Thing. And then all of a sudden, it was gone.
Anza is a UFO researcher's dream, a living laboratory filled with eyewitnesses.
They moved, I first saw them over here, they moved across.
This thing was so bright, there was absolutely no shadows whatsoever on the ground.
It was like a gold trail. It left a gold trail.
Gotilla believes an around-the-clock surveillance here could net scientific proof.
Who came? I don't know.
Of UFO activity. Activity reported today and possibly in the ancient past when Indians here drew astronaut-like figures. Because of so much activity, the time was right. A team of UFO experts and skeptics move into the area. This will be one of the largest UFO stakeouts ever. They set up a command post on Thomas Mountain.
No one. She's on there like in person or in the chat?
That I know of has gone out there to do what we did. We had the radar.
This radar can detect objects within a 24-mile radius.
This was pretty elaborate. The equipment was very expensive and very good and very accurate.
The Starlight camera is so sensitive, it can photograph objects in total darkness. Once online, it sees anything that gives off even the slightest light. It easily picks up stars that are not visible with a regular video camera.
This camera is unique because it has an intensifier, which is more than 1,000 times more sensitive than the video camera you have in your home.
Okay, so Grace is filming the storage unit search for everyone's protection.
Surveying the area, the researchers are looking for a UFO the locals have nicknamed Goldie, a golden glowing craft seen over and over in the night sky from this mountaintop.
Starlight, we're looking at Mount Cahuilla. This is where Goldie, or the UFO, which has been seen about 50 times in the past 3 or 4 years, usually appears. It appears in this area. It has been seen.
I'm going to reverse my sleep schedule so that I can go live at like 2:15 a.m.
Actually, all across Mount Cahuilla.
This time slot's become like so crowded now.
Mount Cahuilla here.
The team gathers data and keeps meticulous notes. They continually monitor the sky. Then, unexpectedly, they're visited by...
What makes you think Jeannie Wasung has a... Well, she might have a high-capacity one. But what makes you think that you could... We're talking camera level. That's like the shape alone.
Witnesses. Debbie Steinberg didn't...
No, I'm not going to watch it live.
...want to talk about her experience in town. She hiked to the stakeout area for a private meeting with researchers.
This is a... Like, I completely understand if you want to go and watch.
About 10:30 at night that it started.
I mean, when Debbie Steinberg is speaking, I have to like, you know, I really got to stick with Big Deb.
And I closed my eyes, and when I opened them again, I found myself in a room.
Yeah, I've seen her dance.
And I was laying on a
plenty of times
table, and I had 6 beings, and I couldn't tell you what they were doing because I really don't know. But I remember the one that was on the left of my head took something from my head.
Researchers at the stakeout say that Debbie's story fits the classic
honestly,
pattern.
That's not a bad idea. Like, if you're going to get in that kind of a situation where there's a real chance for something to happen, it probably is a good idea to have the cops there.
Of what is known as a UFO abduction experience.
Just make sure you film everything.
I believe that the abduction phenomenon is real, that it is extraterrestrial, that people are basically describing events that are happening to them with an objective reality.
Dr. Jacobs has investigated UFO abductions in his bestseller, Secret Life.
Usually, the abduction phenomenon begins in childhood and goes all the way through old age. And so they've had a series of experiences throughout their life.
This is a rendition of the craft I saw when I was 4 and my brother was 3, and where I was zapped with light. This is a drawing of what I call the silhouettes.
What's he got?
I'm very afraid of this rod this one carries.
The eye is long. Long and thin and very
Ooh, Jeannie was
There was some eye contact, but it was like you and I are making eye contact right now. It's not that we're looking at each other's eyes, but we're more like reading each other's minds. That's more like what it was.
Okay, hold on a second. Stephen Tennis, really? And what's his friend's name? Like Jerry Badminton?
I'm a hypnotherapist.
Oh my gosh, what a cool picture though.
I am now specializing in UFO abduction cases.
I would allow this woman to hypnotizing me.
Yvonne Smith heads an abduction support group. where people can share their
Getting a prostate
experiences
exam
and
from an
discuss their
alien.
feelings.
Well, I don't know. Some of the pictures show their fingers as being like relatively narrow, but also like very very long.
I was 6 years old, and I lived in Georgia, near Macon, Georgia.
Has destiny ever been probed by an alien?
Georgia. And I just remember it was in the middle of the night, and I woke up, and I was staring at the side of the head of the being, and I started to panic, and a couple of the beings in the craft subdued me somehow. And they had a very large instrument that came over my head, and they showed me a little BB looking thing, and they told me they were going to put it up my nose. But then this instrument came over my head and punctured the soft palate of my mouth, and it hurt very bad. And the next thing I knew, I was being placed back in my bedroom.
I'm finding in my cases many chilling similarities. The person is taken against their will, taken into a craft of some kind, put on a table. The women begin to experience the gynecological examinations done by the aliens on them. They feel very violated.
Wow.
With the men, anal probes are inserted.
I haven't seen that.
And sperm is taken. It's all done against their will, and they're really helpless to do anything about it.
King TL, listen to this guy. Listen to this guy's story. He got abducted by aliens, and they drained his balls.
Coming up, the abducted relive more terrifying experiences through
Hormaxer would say that was a life-affirming experience.
hypnotic therapy.
During some abductions, I'm aware of them, of their taking sperm samples.
And later, our UFO investigation in Anza, California continues.
Regression therapy is an extremely controversial method in which abductees relive their UFO encounters under hypnosis. Some scientists suggest that what they're actually reliving might be repressed emotional trauma or subconscious fears from childhood. But for the abductee, the alien encounter is very real.
In abduction cases, many times
Welcome back, King.
the person will remember consciously that something strange or bizarre happened to them, something out of the ordinary.
King, would you be okay with it if you got abducted by aliens and they drained your balls?
They desire to go into hypnosis to retrieve the hidden memories.
During some abductions, I'm aware of them, of their taking.
King, I would never judge you for going to watch a different stream, buddy. I promise.
Sperm samples in many different ways. They've done it in many different ways.
What is this guy doing? Oh, I thought he was like
with tubes, with.
I thought he was one of those people that like they like put their hand on a piece of paper and then like a ghost or something tells them what to write, like, but they're not. They claim they're not physically writing it themselves. They're being like controlled by a ghost or demon or something.
Like catheters.
Oh yeah, sorry, King. Drained your ball.
There's one way I have not been able.
You're part of an Air Force exercise.
Able to deal with emotionally or under regression, and that's one where there's a being on top of me, and I can't deal with that yet.
Under hypnosis, Jesse Long is reliving trauma that he believes is caused by his abduction experience.
Automatic writing.
As incredible as it sounds, these people are actually reliving these terrifying experiences.
Oh my God.
Long claims to have not
He's reliving the ball draining.
only emotional scars, but real physical scars as well. Even more disturbing are stories from women who believe they were abducted for breeding purposes.
As incredible as this may sound, we have come across in the research cases having to do...
This lady's eyes are wild.
...with...
Like, is she an alien, like, passing off propaganda?
...missing fetuses.
I remember they numbed me from the waist down, and they took something that looked like an umbilical cord attached to placenta, and they levitated it into some kind of chamber.
Later abduction scenarios, she is actually shown a baby. Now this baby...
Well, but I mean, I know that there are many people who dual watch, but like overall, like if you found Grace on Kick, then this probably isn't like that big of a, you know what I mean? Like on YouTube, it would be like a huge deal.
Baby is not like a human baby that, as we know it, it's a...
You would bang aliens? I mean, I don't see an issue with that.
...cross between an alien and a human.
It's the central question of UFO research today. Why are they manufacturing these offspring, these babies? If we knew the answer to that...
King TL, are these the warthog children that you talk about?
I think we would have a large part of the UFO mystery finally in hand.
Not every reported encounter with an alien is frightening and traumatic. Some people who've claimed contact with extraterrestrials tell us that for them, the encounter was a peaceful communication.
Oh, really?
That was certainly the case for Dorothy Izad of Vancouver, British.
So there's not like a separate kick culture around Grace?
British Columbia.
I went over to the window, looked out, and there was this enormous thing up in the sky. It was in the shape of a diamond. And as I watched it, like there was a whole group of little, like, silver dollars that came out of the large ship.
Dorothy and her family reported that UFOs appeared every night.
I've been with her. I've seen these things. We all went down and we saw the phenomena, you know, flying in formation, you know, streaking across the sky, this sort of thing. She tells me what they are.
Minot? That's
but I'll never be convinced until they drag...
You're talking about that's where the Air Force base is, right? In Minot, or Minot?
Me screaming and kicking into one of their ships. And I'm afraid that's my nature and that's where it'll stay.
I found that through the test that this person is telling the truth, whatever she's doing, and that she's honest, and she's a very average, normal individual.
This is what witnesses have seen. These are not street lights, airplanes, or other conventional lights. This is actual footage of unidentified flying objects. This is a single frame of Dorothy's film, equivalent to 1/18 of a second. The streaks do not appear on the frame before or after this one, suggesting that the light is moving great distances in an 1/18 of a second.
We looked up in...
I mean, I agree. I would think if, like, that kind of shit was happening, but then you hear stories, like, of people, and again, I understand you have to, but I'm saying, like, if you believe them, or if you just try to see it from their perspective, like, people that claim like they're like hairless goblins coming up out of abandoned mines and like terrorizing their families nightly, and for some reason, unless they just can't leave, I guess they always stay. Same with ghosts and stuff. People are always like going through all these experiences but never really do anything about it.
Into the sky, Dorothy too, and she went to the window and she looked up and she said, "Oh, come on. Do something for my friends. They've been here for so long." And right away, 3 shafts of light, as bright as anything, just shot right up into the air where we were watching. My communications with the light beings are that they're very worried about us humans because we usually do things without thinking. The weapons we build, the way we raping the earth, without thinking of the consequences.
Although it does not appear that this film has been altered, skeptics believe these images are the result of light phenomena emanating from Earth, not UFOs. But Dorothy believes these lights are alien spacecraft and that she can communicate with the creatures inside.
Coming up, what caused an unmanned Soviet probe to be knocked out of Martian orbit?
This is something that most likely destroyed the Phobos 2 mission to Mars. And it can do it again.
And our hunt for UFOs in the Southern California desert continues.
The greatest challenge for a serious UFO researcher is finding hard evidence. Film and...
That's always going to be a pretty good business model. That's what Janney was doing with VP for a while that caused a rift between them, as he was stream sniping her live and then just basically like collecting donations from the haters, and she wanted like a slice of it. I don't know how they ended up resolving it, but I think they're back on decent terms now.
Videotape are easily faked, and skeptics distrust first-person accounts.
The term you're looking for, Cush Clark Kent, is it was merely swamp gas.
Followed into the California desert, made every effort to maintain a scientifically valid investigation. All kinds of state-of-the-art technology continue to arrive at the surveillance site.
Well, this radar works like any other radar. It's a precision piece of equipment which utilizes radio waves, which are bounced off a given target to determine its relative size, speed, and location. And that's how it communicates.
Theoretically, radar signals could also be picked up by an alien craft. Another signaling device is this laser. This high-powered...
Theoretically, anything is possible. Like, what the fuck?
Laser acts as a beacon, but researchers also fear it could be interpreted by approaching craft as a hostile act.
On this laser here, you would probably be able to see it reflect off a surface approximately 2 to 3 miles away, although the laser beam does continue on to infinity. So if I was to shine the laser straight up, it would continue on beyond the Earth's atmosphere and continue on forever.
Most UFO research is...
I think my edible just kicked in. I was sitting here and I was like, man, I'm like way higher than I should be. And then I'm like, oh yeah.
Privately funded. But the U.S. government is now launching its own search for extraterrestrial intelligence with a NASA program known as SETI.
SETI stands for Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, and it's an effort by NASA.
Very ATF media, very natural, very believable hairpiece this guy has on. You would never know.
Number of astronomers to look for life in the galaxy. We're going to turn the world's largest telescopes toward the heavens with the idea of looking.
Well, think about what kind of trips me out is that are like the Voyagers, like how far they are now out into space. It just like blows my mind. Some of the space stuff is crazy to me. Like I can just look at a picture of the Pillars of Creation, like for 8 to 12 hours straight, probably. Like it's just so cool looking. But the Voyager stuff is just like blows my mind.
For some signs that we're not alone in the universe. The idea is to listen for radio signals that might be deliberately or perhaps even accidentally transmitted by other civilizations.
Any signals from space will be analyzed by a sophisticated computer system to determine if an alien life form is trying to communicate with us.
It's been said that in the first 30 seconds of this new NASA experiment, we'll collect more data than all the experiments of this type that have collected in the last 30 years. So that's a big step forward.
Yep.
While the U.S. looks for proof of alien spacecraft, the Russians believe they already have proof.
In 1988, the Soviet Union launched 2 unmanned probes to explore Mars and the space around the planet. Phobos 2 achieved Mars orbit in January of 1989. However, something then occurred which there is apparently no prosaic explanation for. According to...
I like that the way that guy's room was, where it's cluttered, but it's like kind of organized. But it's like, you just knew like that guy knew his shit. And like now I think people would think the opposite. They would think he was like a slob or like an idiot.
To the Russians, they encountered with their unmanned craft an anomalous object, or a UFO, which was computed out to 25 kilometers. What we have is an infrared photograph taken from the Phobos 2 probe. This is the Martian moon Phobos. This is the UFO that apparently the Phobos 2 craft encountered. What happened was the craft observed the UFO. It took some photographs of it. Then, according to Soviet sources, this UFO turned toward the Phobos craft. The Russians then lost contact with it, and the craft has been gone ever since.
I think it took out Phobos 2 mission because Phobos 2 saw something it was not supposed to have seen. If I were in a spacecraft now to Mars, especially to Phobos, I would feel terrified because in my opinion, based on the knowledge that I have, something is out there. And what it is, I don't know. But this is something
Exactly. Like, to me, Dave Meltzer's room is like, makes me think like, wow, this dude like lives and breathes this shit. He's probably knows what he's talking about. But now it's like everybody like really goofed on him for it. I remember Cornette just like tore him apart.
most likely destroyed the Phobos 2 mission to Mars. And it can do it again.
Coming up, the startling results of our UFO investigation.
And
I bet the results aren't that startling.
Totally freaked out. I mean, I've got shivers going all the way up my spine.
From the outset of their investigation in Anza, California, the research team realized that the chances of capturing a UFO on film were extremely remote. But even with a skeptical eye to the skies, the team made a startling discovery. Maintaining the surveillance equipment and recording data has been a full-time job for researchers. 2 days and nights of hard work finally pay off. After day-long preparations, a strange light appears in the sky. The camera was not in position, but skeptical observers were.
And I'm totally freaked out. I mean, I've got shivers going all the way up my spine. I don't know how to explain this. You know, I'm a pure skeptic, definitely. And to see what I just saw, there's, you know, I can't be skeptical.
We saw a yellowish orange light appear over the mountain. It traveled a little bit to our right and split off into two lights.
And as we watched them, they began to fade in intensity, and after about 30 to 40 seconds, they disappeared from view.
Wow.
The sighting lasted only 15 seconds, but soon another UFO appeared, and this time the cameras were ready. The team captured this amazing UFO video.
You guys watching this inside? It's going up. Going straight up.
The aliens indirectly drained his balls.
Go, go, go. 249. 249. We are presently watching this light, anomalous light, it's now rising above Mount Cahuilla. It appears to be more oblong or saucer-shaped than a conventional aircraft would be.
This starlight videotape may be all we ever know about the UFO nicknamed Goldie. Neither U.S. military sources nor the FAA have a definitive explanation. Researchers in Anza now have extensive logs and video, but none of it can yet explain who or what is out there. With so many sightings and contacts reported, even the U.S. government is...
Did you guys find that to be startling evidence?
Now taking notice. NASA will spend $100 million over the next 10 years to scientifically search for intelligent life in the universe. One wonders if this mission will show that spaceships and extraterrestrials are more than science fiction. For Sightings, I'm Tim White. Good night.
Wow. What an episode. Here, that's what you're going to name
the following
UFO.
program deals with a controversial subject. The theories expressed are not the only possible interpretation. The viewer is invited to make a judgment based on all available information. Tonight on Sightings, it's the search for the world's most elusive creatures.
And all of a sudden, the top of it swiveled, like, you know, a head.
Are these monsters myth and legend, or horrifying real-life creations?
Let's go.
I've never seen anything like it. I was very, very scared.
And could these terrifying mutations threaten us all?
Well, there's a good indication that there may be some strange animal that we haven't discovered yet.
At that point, it started to appear.
They had large, dark eyes, claw-like hands.
Yeah, this ought to be a good. This ought to be a good episode.
I began sensing and knowing and feeling.
I do believe in life after death. I mean, I've been there.
We have not scratched the surface of what the mind can do.
It's a connection with the unknown.
Bigfoot.
Welcome to Sightings. I'm Tim White. Tonight, monsters. They inhabit the nightmares of childhood and the folklore of every culture. And now there are scientists who believe that monsters...
Could Grace Thorpe be a skinwalker? Have we considered that theory yet?
...aren't just myth. They're real. There are bizarre creatures among us that can't be explained. Some of them have been captured alive. And many of them live in our own backyard.
Rip-off? Oh, definitely the
Since
vibe of
earliest
it.
recorded history,
That intro
there have been
video.
monsters strike a chord of fear in all of us.
Faces of fear.
In the
Ming
Bible,
and the
monsters represented pure evil. They took many different forms, but all had the same goal, to do the bidding of an unrelenting Satan. By the 1800s, the sensibilities of Victorian society gave monsters a human face, but their evil deeds were decidedly inhuman. Mary Shelley's Frankenstein became fictional folklore, but the strangest account wasn't to be found in the pages of a Gothic novel, but with our 26th president, Theodore Roosevelt.
In the late 1800s, the woods of this country, the wilderness areas, were wild and dangerous.
You think she's a reptilian person?
President Roosevelt found out just how dangerous these wilderness areas could be. Teddy Roosevelt loved to hunt. He loved to chase creatures through the wilderness, track, shoot. One night he found out this wasn't as much fun as he thought, when his hunting party frightened a Sasquatch into the camp of two trappers.
Wow.
One of the trappers was killed, neck broken, body mutilated, half-eaten by what seems to be, for all intents and purposes, a Sasquatch. 18.5-inch footprints were found the next morning.
Wow, 8.5 inches, mogging Spicoli.
And Roosevelt was discredited. He became obsessed with finding this creature.
This is a theory developed by world-renowned Bigfoot investigator Terry Albright, based on Roosevelt's own writings about his hunting experiences all over the world. Although Teddy Roosevelt never actually came face-to-face with a Bigfoot, Albright claims he was obsessed with stories of reported sightings and carried the fascination to his grave.
Now, if Sasquatch is out there and potentially dangerous if aggravated, how many other creatures or things that go bump in the night are out there that we don't know about?
Do you like it that he pronounces it Sasquatch?
This is Hollywood's version of monsters. Creatures designed to scare us, even horrify us with their bloodthirsty qualities. But Hollywood...
I do like it whenever she gets really into something and she'll like get her face really close to the camera and then like her eyes will get all like all out of it.
Monsters are just as likely to make us laugh at our own fears when they're obviously men in silly rubber suits.
Hollywood pokes a lot of fun at monsters. But the fact of the matter is, we have unexplained deaths. The Pentagon must know. Therefore, why aren't we being told the truth about this creature?
You take offense.
Despite resistance, Terry Albright continues to search for proof of Bigfoot and
Lizard
other
man.
alleged monsters. One unlikely hotspot is Bishop.
I have to get a filing cabinet and have actual file folders on all of my studies. What? Yeah, that did look like actually a pretty cool looking suit.
South Carolina. Residents here have encountered a bizarre humanoid creature that's rumored to haunt the nearby swamps. On July 5th, 1988, the Sheriff's Department responded to a call from a man who said he had been attacked by a scaly, 7-foot-tall monster locals have dubbed Lizard Man. 20-year-old Chris Davis was changing a tire on his car when he heard strange sounds.
And after I finished changing the tire, I was putting the stuff in the trunk. And I heard a noise. I looked back. I see something big running towards me. So I shut the trunk and ran to the car. I heard a loud crash on the hood.
Something or someone had clawed the hood of Chris's car and ripped off the molding.
I think the Mothman's an interesting story. I think the movie was better than I expected. Like, it's weird to think of Richard Gere in a movie about the Mothman, but it wasn't too bad.
Footprints that didn't match those of any known animal were found near the attack site by Sheriff Liston Truesdale.
This track was found in the woods not long after the Lizard Man's story broke out.
No one knows what creature could have made this claw-like print, 14.5 inches long and 7 inches wide. There are alligators in the area, but no one believes the prints or the attack was the work of alligators or any other animal known in the pages of traditional biology. And yet each year, there are bizarre discoveries that drastically change
However,
our
in the
perceptions
abnormal,
about
wow,
life on
everything's
Earth.
It scared me because of the traits it had.
Everyone believes that there is something here.
True.
That same went back that way, and I went that way.
Sound far out? Well, pandas were once mysterious monsters in China until
he was that away, so I went that away. Perfect.
Western zoologists tracked and cataloged them. Marine biologists estimate that there are over 1 million species of sea life yet to be discovered. In 1989, Woods Hole Oceanographic captured these incredible bioluminescent creatures, and no one knows what they are.
Oh my God.
Could these be real living monsters that somehow survived from prehistoric times? Experts believe the ozone layer is shrinking, creating climate changes. DNA.
I'd like to talk to those fish and just ask them like what's your day like as like a deep sea bioluminescent fish? Like what are your goals for the day? All that kind of stuff. Just get to know like what is life like at the bottom of the sea.
It may be mutating, and with unprecedented heat and drought, who knows what bizarre new life forms may be created by these atmospheric changes.
Coming up next.
Its appearance was just a large humanoid creature walking like a human being.
Our sightings investigators search for the legendary Bigfoot.
There is no possibility that could be a man in a fursuit.
A monster 8 feet tall, half man, half beast. Perhaps the elusive missing link between humans and apes. Since the first recorded sighting in 200 BC, creatures matching this description have been reported worldwide.
That's definitely true.
But witnesses have caught only fleeting glimpses of the monster we now call Bigfoot. Is he?
What a great song. Why doesn't Grace or Ruby ever sing? Well, I guess because it's a Disney song, but I think if you just sing it a cappella, they won't take it down. We never get Under the Sea, which would be great. We never get A Whole New World from Aladdin, which would be great.
Or she, real. From their office in San Dimas, California, Terry Albright.
San Dimas, if you remember, home of time, which is like the ley lines come together for time travel, as we saw in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
And his partner, Peter Gattila, are obsessed with tracking down the legendary Bigfoot. For over a year, the team has been concentrating on a rash of reliable sightings in Sonora, California. Signs of the creature's impact on local business are everywhere. In fact, the residents have adopted Bigfoot.
You know who would buy that shirt, don't you? Tony Atlas.
As an unofficial mascot.
Travels up and down the West Coast, and it's in Alaska in the summertime and then comes back down here for winter.
The biggest thing is size and its movement.
Jim Corporal Kirscher.
More human-like than anything, than any animal.
It had to be Bigfoot. There was no other answer.
Here, Albright and Gattila ask eyewitness Faye Milner to return to the
Look at this Bigfoot hunting crew. Amazing.
Site of her first Bigfoot encounter.
We got out of the car, and
Fiddler's
dogs
Green.
started raising hell. And
Remember that from George Romero's Land of the Dead, I think? Their little, like, enclave of human survivors was Fiddler's Green.
and just barking and sniffing and carrying on. So I just looked around. I thought, well, you know, maybe there's something here. Looked up here and saw 3 Bigfoots standing there.
During an examination of the forest, the researchers found evidence they believe confirms Bigfoot was there. And recently,
these branches way up here.
And do you want me to try to find if there's anyone around in my area that's does Bigfoot hunts?
Here. Now, some of these branches have been rubbed raw of bark. Places where things have been broken off, as you can see, through here. Not only that, below it, there is a path. Here is a branch which has been knocked off and walked over many times. Broken branches here.
Yeah, you don't want to be accused of being a troll and a real. You don't want to take the brunt of like the feelings that Grace is probably having toward Courtney.
pushed down branches there. Something has obviously come through here regularly.
The evidence is similar to that found throughout the Pacific Northwest and British Columbia, and eyewitness descriptions are strikingly similar.
We could see them go behind that tree, in through that opening, and then they were gone.
What I saw was
Here we go.
about a 6.5, 7 foot creature.
Will Whitehouse.
Bigfoot.
Okay. I'm sure that's a real person.
That's the scariest I've probably been in my life, to be that close to something and not see it and feel it. And the way it was breathing, I figured that thing was big.
Its appearance was just a large humanoid creature walking like a human being.
I thought he had like a huge feather on his hat from that, but that's just the pine tree.
In the Himalayas, it's called Yeti. These tracks were found at the base of Mount Everest. The Chinese call it Fei-Fei, a 10-foot-tall creature whom they say has a taste for human flesh. Native Americans call it Oma. In Canada, it's Sasquatch. And in the western United States, we call it Bigfoot. October 20th, 1967, Bigfoot research pioneers Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin discover the trail of what they believe is an enormous Bigfoot. They gather what evidence they can, and deep in this pine forest, begin to feel an uneasy.
So Gimlin has been around for a long time then. So he's actually in a lot of the, like these old pictures and footage of the older Bigfoot hunts. Do you think Grace is doing the classic cult maneuver of isolating the victim?
Presence. They face a dilemma. How will they react if a Bigfoot actually appears?
We came around a bend in the creek where there was a downfall tree. At that point, as we came around the bend in the creek there, this creature was standing beside the creek.
Startled by the looming presence of the creature, the horses reared. Roger Patterson was thrown to the ground, but steadied his camera long enough to capture this legendary creature on film.
They encountered it very close, I think 20, 25 feet away, and Roger Patterson turned on his movie camera, ran after it as far as he could, and finally he stopped and it walked away.
Further perspective on the footage comes from Grover Krantz, a physical anthropologist at Washington State University.
Here is a cast that was made at the, in 1967 at the site where Roger Patterson got a movie of one. And this is what I would consider to be probably an adult female. The creature has extremely wide shoulders, well over 3 feet wide.
It's got to be fun, like, just to be able to make up shit and say whatever. And since it's all fake, like, no one can really call you out on it because, you know, there's nothing to, like, you know, all you can say is like, well, this isn't, that you don't believe it or whatever, but you could just make shit up, and that's crazy to me.
And I've done some measurements, and no human being at 6.5 feet tall would have shoulders and chest widths to equal that. So there's no way they could fit their arms in the costume.
Hey, Amber.
I've gone through the whole film and reconstructed everything, the exact body movements and everything you can. And I'm satisfied that there is no possibility that could be a man in a fursuit. There's just no way around it.
Like, he's just talking out of his ass. Like, what the fuck? I know it's like a grift or like a delusion, but come on.
If the film is not a hoax, then this is the moving image of a giant unknown species, probably female, as she passes alone by a river. Her slow retreat suggests no fear of man and no desire to make contact with us. Films, videotapes, and plaster casts of giant footprints do little to satisfy skeptics who believe that Bigfoot is nothing more than hoax and folklore. Scientists demand more conclusive proof, and some believe that proof may be found in the fossilized jaw.
Remember when the guy at the evidence symposium said that, like, made a point of saying that he thought that the Minnesota Iceman's genitals were underwhelming for his height?
Jawbone of a species called Gigantopithecus. In the late 1950s, an anomalous lower jawbone was discovered in China. Dr. Krantz believes this may be scientific proof that Bigfoot exists.
I've taken this jaw and tried to reconstruct what I think the entire skull would look like. This is what I've ended up with, that this is what the Gigantopithecus skull would have looked like. So I would certainly say the best guess as to what Bigfoot is it's Gigantopithecus still with us.
With mounting physical evidence from all over the world, Krantz believes it's only a matter of time before responsible researchers make the scientific discovery of the century, the capture of a living, unharmed Bigfoot.
Any day now.
Coming up,
We knew right off the bat it had to be some kind of a monster in the lake.
has science found proof that the Loch Ness Monster exists?
Well, there's a good indication that there may be some strange animal that we haven't discovered yet.
If we are to believe the thousands of sailors and fishermen who've seen them, enormous sea serpents have populated our oceans and lakes since earliest recorded history. The most popular spot for sightings is, of course, Loch Ness in the Scottish Highlands. For 1,400 years, residents...
Wouldn't it be cool to see one of those giant, remember like in the old nautical paintings and shit where they have the gigantic squid that like takes the ship down? How incredible would that be to see like in person?
have searched for proof of a monster they know is there. The celebrated Loch Ness, 24 miles long, its waters so deep, dark, and murky that legend has it this body of water is cursed. Locals will tell you the lake never gives up its dead. Since 565 AD, hundreds have witnessed a creature no one can explain.
There came out of a loch was this huge shape, massive shape, brown-grey in colour.
The Jim Cornette of Loch Ness.
Huge. And it then zonked back into the loch, and then the loch was flat calm. And what I saw then was waves about 18 inches high going to each side of the loch. And then it just disappeared.
Believe it or not, we saw this great neck emerge from the water, at least about 5 feet, we estimate, above the water at an angle. Head and neck seemed to be one. Then it moved down with a sideways kind of motion and disappeared. And we hadn't drunk a drop of whiskey that morning.
Jeez,
These
Cameron.
witnesses are seeing something strange and alive.
Okay, so the predominant theory of now in the present that we're living in is that these are whale penises. But back then, I don't think that was even a discussion point.
In the water. But what? Some believe that there are prehistoric creatures in Loch Ness that have survived extinction. What else could explain this bizarre figure, captured in the most famous of all Loch Ness Monster photographs? Taken by a reputable London surgeon in 1933, this was the start of a worldwide search for proof of the monster.
The big question in all this, of course, is, are these animals real? Why don't we catch them? Why do we see them so rarely?
In order to answer these questions, scientists have used many different techniques to photograph or even capture the Loch Ness Monster. In 1975, the Academy of Applied Sciences made headlines around the world with these remarkable pictures. They clearly show a flipper and the body of a creature never photographed before. Could this be what locals affectionately refer to as Nessie? With this new evidence, the search for a living monster intensified. Operation Deep Scan was mounted. Boats equipped with sophisticated radar and sonar worked together to scan every inch of the lake. Then, one underwater scanner picked up a startling anomaly.
Atlantis, what depth did you find target at, over? It started at about 480 feet down and rose up to 320 feet before we lost the target, over.
When we work with sonar, we get strong...
Imagine being south to west and you put in all this work and you figure out and you prove that the Loch Ness Monster is real, but everyone dismisses you because Grace Thorpe has convinced everyone that you're just a troll.
Sonar contacts in Loch Ness. Obviously, we have to resolve that because the two may be linked.
So what is in Loch Ness? The answer may also explain what is in Lake Okanagan, 9,000 miles away in British Columbia, where residents describe an equally mysterious lake monster.
We had slowed down somewhat.
Bill Dundee.
And moved over for it because it was coming straight for us. As it got across from us, we could see that this object, it was about 30 feet in length, and it was stirring up a tremendous amount of water.
Could the creature that reportedly inhabits this lake be related to the Loch Ness Monster? The sightings follow a similar pattern, going back 100 years when Indians named this monster Ogopogo.
All of a sudden, Ogopogo came to the top of the water. And my husband looked at me and he said, "Oh my God, it's Ogopogo."
We figured it's around 40 feet long. And there's no fish in this lake 40 feet long, so it wasn't a fish.
We knew right off the bat it had to be some kind of a monster in the lake.
Unlike Nessie, an Ogopogo sighting has rarely been captured on film. Man. But in 1987, an American film crew shooting a news documentary on Ogopogo made news themselves when they shot this rare videotape, an unidentified creature rising to the surface of the lake.
Nothing around it, nothing in front of it, nothing behind it.
What did the news crew film? Was it an extraordinarily large fish or a prehistoric cousin of the Loch Ness Monster? Are witnesses seeing the same type of creature 9,000 miles apart? And could there be more yet to be discovered in other bodies of water around the world?
There's a good indication that there may be some strange animal that we haven't discovered yet. Chance will eventually perhaps favor us with...
Southwest, were you saying that that one specific photo, like that there's a theory that it's an elephant trunk, that like it's not taken at even at the location that they claimed?
Discovering everything that lives in the ocean.
Because the angle did, and that little bit of a thing would make sense as like the like tip top of the elephant head.
If lake monsters actually exist, where did they come from? One intriguing theory suggests that during the last ice age, certain prehistoric animals were trapped in what would later become freshwater lakes. The possibility that these monsters are actually living dinosaurs propels scientists to continue serious research.
Coming up, the world's most bizarre and frightening creations may be forced into our own backyards.
It wasn't a natural thing. It was some kind of, I think it was an unnatural creature.
A bolt of lightning, 100 million volts of electricity. Experiments have shown that this may have been the jolt that created life out of seawater. If that's true...
Yeah, I could definitely see that when I looked at it, when it came up again.
Imagine the beasts that could be created in the toxic waste of the 20th century.
I've never seen anything like it. I was very, very scared.
Perhaps the most amazing discovery...
I do believe her for some reason.
...of all was this creature, captured by Japanese fishermen in 1985. This bizarre carcass was caught off the coast of New Zealand, but the fishermen did not realize the importance of what they'd found. These rare photos were taken before the body was thrown back. Satellite photographs show that thousands of square miles of Pacific Ocean may be heating up. Near Mozambique, a fish thought to be extinct for 2 million years is captured alive. Could all these events be a hint of other monsters yet to be discovered?
When I first thought it, the neck was way out of the water. So I went to turn my boat to avoid this. And then all of a sudden the top of it swiveled.
Gary Limato.
Like, you know, a head. That's when the excitement started.
Gary Limato was on a pleasure cruise when he encountered a sea monster. This
Oh my God, a pleasure cruise? Sounds good.
Exclusive footage captures an 8-foot neck rising from the surface.
Pleasure cruise. I gotta
From what Gary Limetta has described, it looked to him like a very large turtle without a shell. The big question is, what can this animal be? After all, we have a catalog of a great number of animals that we have caught in the ocean. Are there any others?
We may soon find out. Dwindling animal habitats and destruction of the world's wild places mean animals, perhaps monsters, will soon have nowhere to go but into our own backyards.
It scared me because of the traits it had. You know, it wasn't a natural thing. It was some kind of, I think it was an unnatural creature.
Humanoid monsters and bizarre creatures of the deep have terrified people for thousands of years. But perhaps we shouldn't fear these so-called monsters. Remember, every day on this planet, more than 20 species of plant and animal become extinct, vanish from the face of the Earth. Perhaps serious study of those...
All right, I switched from Champion City Chocolate, which is kind of a deeper indica, over to Sour Banana Sherbet, which is a more like a hybrid.
Creatures we call monsters.
Uh-oh, what did I do wrong here?
Can reverse the process. For Sightings, I'm Tim White. Good night.
Bobby's new girlfriend is beautiful beyond belief, but could she be a killer in disguise?
What's up, Backwoods Squatch? Oh, you just missed your episode, dude.
Tonight on Sightings, vampires. Are they real or the stuff that nightmares are made of?
Great, an episode on vampires.
The best thing about being a vampire is the taste of the blood.
Our researchers hunt for evidence in human skeletal remains and prove that vampires still exist. Then, they were ordinary people until they had...
Oh, it's good. Champion City Chocolate's one of my favorites. I feel like I can, like, if I power load at the beginning of the sesh with it, then it's like, I'm pretty good. Like, I can just, like, supplement with, I don't have to go with another, like, real heavy indica.
Frightening visions of real-life
What's
murders.
up, baby?
It was as if someone had put a picture right in front of me.
Fluke or psychic phenomena that could solve our most horrifying crimes. And our ongoing Bermuda Triangle investigation uncovers a startling piece of evidence that may unlock the mystery of missing Flight 19.
This telegram is certainly a genuine telegram of the period.
At that point, it started to appear.
Me personally, I think this is a telegram of the Purple Era.
Large, dark eyes, claw-like hands.
I began sensing and knowing and feeling.
I do believe in life after death. I mean, I've been there.
We have not scratched the surface of what the mind can do.
Yeah, the investigation is ongoing.
Connection with the unknown.
I'm sure now they have...
Just about everything we know about vampires was created almost 100 years ago by Bram Stoker in his classic Gothic novel Dracula. It's been the inspiration for countless stories and movies about a fictional character with a taste for human blood.
You feel like Dalsim's legs wrapped around you? You still in bed? There's nothing wrong with that.
Blood.
Give in to the rotter lifestyle, King.
But today in the United States, some people believe that vampires actually exist. We think of vampires as part of Eastern European folklore or the result of Hollywood conjuring, not as the stuff of small-town America. But in the late 18th...
Wait, what? Savvy should have a segment or presentation about evil, untrustworthy women in church. I feel like that's half of his videos.
18th century, belief in the undead led to bizarre rituals designed to keep the newly deceased from coming back to prey on the living. The Connecticut countryside is dotted with old cemeteries. In Griswold, a dark secret lay dormant for nearly 2 centuries and has only recently been unearthed. In Washington, at the prestigious Walter Reed Army Medical Center, remains uncovered in Griswold were analyzed by Paul Sedzik, a curator at the National Museum of Health and Medicine.
They'd be so overwhelmed with like the volume of potential footage that they probably have to move on.
I was given a call by the state archaeologist in Connecticut to help identify and analyze some skeletal material that was found at this site in Griswold, Connecticut. What happened was some kids had found a couple of skulls laying at the bottom of a little ravine, and they brought them to the police, and the police called the medical examiner. The medical examiner did some research into the records in that time period and came up with vampire activity or vampire cults in the 18th and 19th century.
Archaeologists probed the graves for mutilated corpses. The telltale...
I'm going to work Savvy Guy into an IRL conversation one of these days. I can get Jedi Rich is easy to mention because he has such like eclectic interests. And Ben, if you're talking to somebody religious. I got Grace in, though, too, talking about the Viking axes.
Signs of suspected vampires. The next step in verification was
whole
determining the cause of
times.
death.
Wow.
Pretty evident to see the cause of death. In the skeleton from Connecticut, the vampire skeleton, there's evidence of tuberculosis in some of the upper left ribs. And here we can see evidence here, this whitish area that we're seeing close to the articulation with the vertebrae.
Tuberculosis played a major role in the vampire folklore of the 1800s.
Did it?
It was believed that those who died of TB could come back and infect the living. So a ritual developed to ensure that a corpse's eternal resting place really was eternal.
What they actually did was take the bones here in the chest and jumble them up like someone had just taken their hand and kind of moved it around in that fashion. They then took the two femora, the upper leg bones, crossed this one here and this other one on top of it, over across like that. They then took the skull and placed that right in this area, and then they closed the crypt back up.
The graves were opened anywhere from 2 weeks to a year after burial. Graves of dearly departed loved ones or anyone who died of tuberculosis.
What for me is just that people could actually believe that someone dying of tuberculosis could actually cause the death of loved ones. And there are accounts in New England, especially of men going into the graves of their daughter and removing their hearts and burning them, and you know, fathers doing it to sons, sons doing it to fathers. I mean, very close family units. There were probably lots of people attending these exhumations and killing of vampires, and when you do read them, there can be upwards of 300 or 400 people. The whole town would probably turn out. You know, it's a major social event. Digging up wives, husbands, sons, daughters, and trying to kill them again. I mean, that's something that we couldn't even conceive of today. I couldn't imagine going and digging up the grave of my daughter and trying to kill her again. It was something that completely would never enter my mind.
In many parts of America, you can still hear chilling tales of vampires today. In Los Angeles, professor of folklore and author Noreen Dresser researches living.
I actually could have been interviewed for this. I did have an encounter once with a vampire.
Vampires.
Very often, the act of drinking blood is a prelude to sex. People who call themselves vampires. Uh-huh. A corpse supposed to come to life at night and leave its grave and suck the blood of sleeping people. If a person wants to dress in black and sleep during the daytime and be awake at night and walk through the graveyards and listen to gothic music, and that person's not hurting anyone, including the fact that that person might want to drink someone's blood and someone is willing to give it to them,
consenting adult.
I don't see where that's harming anyone.
I'd say the best thing about being a vampire is...
It depends on how you define intimate, but it was back in the like super early days of like AOL chat rooms, and I met somebody in a wooded area that claimed to be... I can't... Obviously, I didn't have any testing tools on me at the time, but she claimed to be a vampire.
Is the taste of the blood and being with someone who trusts you and will let you drink their blood.
Katrina is proof that vampire practices are real and still occur today.
There are certain well-known criminals, for example, Richard Ramirez and Ted Bundy.
Oh no,
who in
Richard
reports,
Ramirez, she gonna get DDoSed, man.
There were just little side notes that they did drink blood from their victims, but that was never presented as
Smoking period blood.
Main motivation for
Tenency?
committing their crimes.
I would never do anything to a child or to an animal. This is something that I've only done with a consenting adult. You know, they have to be willing to do this, and anyone that I've ever done anything like this with actually has enjoyed it.
Some vampires attempt to take blood here from the carotid artery. However, that's rather clumsy and it's also quite dangerous. So this is not really used as often as taking it from the arm.
I can use an instrument like this, which is a medical scalpel. It's very sharp. It can be sterilized with alcohol, so there won't be any infection.
Oh my God.
It's
Vampire
painless.
with a box
Blood
cutter?
is an acquired taste. The best place is somewhere on the arms or the hands, and I'll just, you know, continue drinking until the wound stops.
This lady's making me anxious. I can only imagine how South to West is feeling. Vampire with a box cutter would be a great movie, though.
Bleeding. Sometimes this leads to a relationship where they say, well, that was kind of interesting. I enjoyed it. Would you like to do it again sometime?
You could be attacked, mugged, robbed, shot, killed on the freeway. I mean, our life is so fraught with dangers and fears that it's a lot more satisfying to focus on something scary when we know what all the rules of that scariness are.
Why does the myth of vampires still persist? Perhaps it's because we are still plagued by diseases and our lives are still precarious as they were in ancient times. But unlike the rest of us, a vampire never gets sick, never grows old, and never dies.
Coming up, they were ordinary people until they had frightening visions of real-life murders.
It was as if someone had put a picture right in front of me.
And later, what really happened to Flight 19 over the Bermuda Triangle? Startling new evidence may prove that the airmen survived.
There are people. So, in theory, vampires then are bulimic. So, Joy, that would be a big W for Joy's theories on bulimia, I think, if vampires were, involved.
People who have extraordinary powers of perception and make their living as professional psychics. But tonight we'll meet ordinary people who suddenly, and for no apparent reason, have one striking psychic vision. For them, that single clairvoyant moment becomes a living nightmare. August 1990, the usually laid-back town of Gainesville, Florida, was paralyzed with fear. 5 violent murders within 40 hours. 5 college students mutilated in their apartments. And no...
This is the case that they based one of King TL's favorite movies on, Scream.
Arrests. 2 years later, the case remains open. Over 1,000 miles away, a successful businessman who has never been to Gainesville begins to experience nightmarish visions.
Well, I walked out to the barn and about 9:30 at night and was taking care of the horses down there. And on my way back...
I did comment on his latest video. He posted another video of another tree coming down, and I put, "I hope you're doing okay, George."
From the barn, I just happened to look up into the sky, and I saw a window with a silhouette of a person in there. A few weeks went by, I had a premonition that I was going to meet this killer from Gainesville. The very next day after the premonition, I did meet a gentleman from Gainesville.
Gainesville had some wrestling. It would have had to have. It sounds like a wrestling town. I can see wrestlers like cutting a promo and saying that on Thursday night in Gainesville, whatever.
Last year, visions of a murder have haunted a man who's never had a psychic experience. The images are so real, so frightening, that he's asked to remain anonymous and be referred to as John.
One morning, I just happened to see this vision of a dog. I seen the head of a dog on the door, and after looking at it more thoroughly, I could actually see the dog's body.
After a couple of weeks, John began to see more and different images in the door. A young girl, the state of Florida, an athletic field.
Could it be? I mean, it could be. I don't understand unless he, his boss or whatever, or people that know him would think he was crazy or whatever. But, yeah, maybe, because it's not like he can give testimony. He's not he's under witness protection from the dog man.
A deer, a sickle. The images gave John no answers, only questions.
What is the average person?
Oh my gosh, you wonder if there's a Grace-like figure in George's life who hides positive comments from him and tells him that I'm just a troll. I bet so. Poor George.
To do when they start having what they believe are intuitive impressions about, say, a crime, a murder, a series of murders.
The spirit who was coming to me was a girl, a young girl.
Gainesville's a party town.
I had the feeling that this spirit was a girl of about 20 or so years old, and she was one of the victims.
John wanted to go to the police, but he was afraid that if he told them what he'd seen, they might make him a suspect. That is exactly what happened to California housewife Etta Smith 10 years earlier.
It was 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I was listening to a radio broadcast while at work. And They said that they had found the lady's vehicle in Pacoima.
This is a deep cut, but maybe south to west, and some other people might get it. Remember on the Match game, Fanny Flagg? That's who this reminds. That's like such a weird. Come on. Jeez, what a disaster. It should be back. It should be back to normal soon. It has to like cycle through for some reason. White Horace Grant, by the way. All right, well, maybe. Nope, now it's going back down again. Okay. All right, I think we're back to stability now. Okay. All right, let's go. Back to the White Horace Grant.
If someone had put a picture right in front of me.
Etta drove to a police station and revealed her startling insight to a homicide detective.
I explained exactly. It'd be the right-hand side with a dirt path to her, a hill behind her. He suggested that I show him on a wall map where this area was, and that's when we discovered that it was Lopez Canyon. I don't think I was thinking right, but I knew I had to go see for myself. I knew the police would never tell me, and I was afraid maybe they wouldn't look.
Within minutes, Etta saw her vision become a horrifying reality.
As my eyes traveled further across the object, at the end of the object were white nurses'
Well, I'm glad south to west.
shoes.
On her way back down the canyon, she reported her grisly find to a ranger. Shaken by the experience, Etta then went home. Not long after, there was a knock at her door.
She went home, and then subsequently she was brought down by the police department and arrested for the murder of this woman.
It took 9 years and a jury trial before Etta was
Whoa.
exonerated for doing
So she got $26K in a settlement.
what she
Not
thought was
bad.
right. But how do you explain the source of her psychic experience, or John's startling visions? Somehow, John had to come to terms with the gruesome visions that had been haunting him. Psychic psychologist Keith Harari accompanied him to Gainesville to help him on his journey. They visited the murder scenes in search of
Oh
clues
my
to the
God,
mystery.
this guy is something else.
When I was out having these visions, I would ask for something that I can only the police would know, or that she could tell me. One of them being that what was the murder weapon used, and she gave me a vision of a sickle, and the sickle could be found in an area behind a football field. And I also envisioned a tree and also a symbol or of deer or some type of animal.
One victim attended classes at the Gainesville Teaching Zoo, where not only are there deer, but a parking lot under construction on top of what used to be an athletic field.
We got a tremendous amount of contacts from people who believe very strongly that they had information from a psychic nature or paranormal nature that they wanted to relay to the investigators. They wanted to do so primarily to benefit the investigation.
I'm just an average person, okay, having a vision.
Well, if we were doing primetime references, I'm pretty sure this is a Carolyn Lee chair.
And that with that, they would look upon me as wacky.
The dead tree was the sign John was looking for. And with the supervision of Keith Harari, he began an intensive search for the murder weapon.
Oh, metal detecting.
Things that have happened to me all pertain
What about a metal detecting stream?
to this Gainesville killing, and this spirit that has come to me is one of the victims, and I feel it so strongly that I just can't let it go. I have to follow this through as she wants me to do. I feel that she wants to put an end to this and put this person in jail, and I just can't let it go like that.
Life is a mystery, and it's full of mysteries, and it's full of situations in which you don't always get closure. I mean, the healthiest thing to do in this case is to say, well, I don't know, I checked it out, I didn't find anything, go back to one's ordinary life and have a good life.
Daninsky, you think that Grace sees South to West as a threat of like maybe that Ben will be like, hey, listen, I'd rather go hang out with South to West and, you know, have intellectual conversations than hang out here?
Open to the possibility that sometimes things happen that you can't explain.
On June 9th, 1992, while this story was being shot, a new development. A man named Danny Rolling was indicted for murder in the Gainesville case. But Danny Rolling is not the man in John's visions. John believes there's a second murderer who has not yet been caught. And in fact, the Gainesville Police Department admits there may be a second murderer at large. The investigation continues, and for John, so does the waking nightmare of his psyche.
I did find out that the lake offers like a bunch of rentals on like different types of craft you can take out. So there's some of them that would be pretty easy to stream from, like the paddle boats or like anything like that.
Visions.
Not like parasailing or whatever.
Coming up next, did the Bermuda Triangle take Flight 19, or was it all a government cover-up?
They were all right, so we're back to Flight 19 now.
All lying. All of them.
They're all liars.
On a recent episode of Sightings, we told you the story of Flight 19, a squadron of Navy fighters that vanished in the treacherous Bermuda Triangle after World War II. And now, 47 years after the planes disappeared, Sightings has received exclusive information that reveals a bizarre new twist in the fate of Flight 19.
If South to West can make a decent sandwich and isn't afraid to spoon, it could be over for Grace.
I doubt if anyone will ever be able to solve this.
You know, they were all lying.
East of Florida, north of Puerto Rico, south of Bermuda. These are the parameters for a region some believe is a portal at the rim of reality. This is the heart of the legendary Bermuda Triangle, the last stop on Earth for many who have dared venture within its boundaries. For the last half-century, men, women, and children have mysteriously disappeared here with...
South to West, you can't really derail the chat too much. It's pretty freewheeling.
Without a trace. And the Bermuda Triangle does not give up its secrets.
Plus, I think everybody is interested in the Grace South to West new storyline.
But now, one strange Western Union telegram may reveal the fate of at least one victim of the deadly triangle. Nearly a half-century ago, on December 5th, 1945, the Bermuda Triangle claimed some of America's finest, men who had survived World War II. At 2 p.m., a squadron of Navy Aztec bombers took off from Fort Lauderdale on a routine 3-hour training mission over the Atlantic Ocean. At 3:45 p.m., Lieutenant Charles Taylor radioed in a distress call. He seemed to be disoriented. "Both my compasses are out," he said. "I'm over land, but it's broken." Sporadic broad...
We need a Ruby expose on this. Grace turning on one of the Thorpe's biggest supporters in the chat. That seems like it's like perfect for a Ruby video.
Cast continued for the next 3 hours. Then, abruptly, all 5 planes...
South to West would, of course, refuse to go on Ruby's program out of respect for Ben, but still, it could be a good show.
Lost radio contact with the tower.
When we couldn't make contact with Taylor, things
Poole.
became very frustrating. And then when one thing went wrong, it seemed like everything went wrong.
The Navy launched a massive search and rescue operation, sweeping hundreds of nautical miles night and day. But no trace of the squadron was ever found. No debris, no bodies, no oil slick. 14 men and 5 bombers vanished off the face of the Earth.
You know, your mind plays all kinds of tricks, and you think all kinds of things, and
Frank Paunessa.
You just can't come up with a complete answer.
A strange rumor surfaced that the planes had not crashed into the ocean and that the crewmen were still alive. This rumor was based on the theory that Flight 19 was not on a routine training mission, but instead was part of a top-secret Navy intelligence project. The Navy was supposedly testing a new electromagnetic device believed to be more important than the atom bomb. This device was thought to be capable of making any metallic object and the crew on board invisible. It was called the Philadelphia experiment. 50 years after Flight 19 disappeared, a haunting clue has surfaced. On December 26, 1945, 2 weeks after the...
Sorry, I completely zoned out for a second. His voice, then the weed, just like I got lulled into a tunnel there. Only the best of the Thorpe viewers also watch Mark Fusion. What's up, BB? At the end of Close Encounters of the Third Kind, the pilots walk out of the UFO at the end. I can't remember now. My brain's not functioning at the highest level. I need to do a review of that one. I can't remember if I have a video review of it yet.
Joseph Payanesso received a telegram signed by his brother George, one of the crewmen who had vanished in the Bermuda Triangle. The telegram read, "You have been misinformed about me. Am very much alive. Georgie." To check its authenticity, a Western Union official and...
I love the part where he's like making the mound out of the mashed potatoes, and he's like, "This means something."
The document expert examined the telegram. They both verified it is not a fake.
This telegram is certainly a genuine telegram of the period.
Charles
and as for the
Hi, I'm a document specialist. 14 missing as Mark sparks up.
contents, I leave that to someone else to judge.
When I saw the telegram and read it, I confirmed my suspicions that he was still alive. I believe that the telegram that was sent is real because of the way he signed it. They covered up something.
The top secret report on flight...
Devil's Tower is a big tree. I love that theory. Like, that really opens up a world of possibilities if that were to be true.
19 has recently been declassified. The document states that the flight, quote, disappeared for reasons or causes unknown. Does the Navy...
King TL, imagine the TikTok e-girl that would have the power to chop down the Devil's Tower in a TikTok video.
Be no more than they're admitting.
I was very disillusioned with their whole procedure. I wrote hundreds and hundreds of letters, which they shifted me from one...
Could even Gia Armani take down the Devil's Tower?
...naval base to another, and to one captain to another. They declared him dead due to drowning. And I asked them to tell me, how did they come to that conclusion? And they said it was within their power, and that was it.
The Navy continues to deny the existence of any project like the Philadelphia experiment. They also deny that any of the men on Flight 19 survived.
They were all lying, all of them.
Were the men of Flight 19 victims of a Navy experiment gone horribly awry? Or were they caught in the deadly vortex known as the Bermuda Triangle? Both...
Wait, giant Bethadone or giant Lauren Jumps? I did notice in her video last night, it opened with vacuum content, which was great. And then there were 2 jump rope segments. And then there was another, I think there was an outdoor segment.
Possibilities are frightening to contemplate.
We got to see the full lower torso tattoo.
Thanks for joining us. For Sightings, I'm Tim White. Good night.
Next time on Sightings, psychic healing. Is it the ultimate cure?
Oh shit, South to West gonna lose it.
You're all.
I've seen people who have cancer no longer have cancer.
I was healed forever and ever.
Psychic healing on the next
Was that
Sightings.
Joni from Happy Days?
Sunday, from the producers of Married with Children, it's the series premiere of Rachel Gunn RN, right after In Living Color. Later that night, the guys on Down the Shore have a sexy new next-door neighbor.
Down the Shore. I don't remember that show too well.
The following program deals with a controversial subject. The theories expressed are not the only possible interpretation. The viewer is
Henry
invited to make a
Winkler.
judgment based on
Crazy.
all available information. Tonight on Sightings was the shocking murder of a teenage girl foretold in her own mother's mystery novel.
I had more or less written the story of our own true life horror story.
And psychic contact with the dead girl helped solve the crime. Then, from our UFO file, bizarre men in black stalk witnesses who have had UFO sightings.
His eyes were extremely long. They literally wrapped around his temples.
Startling new evidence and exclusive videotape reveals the sinister motives behind the MIB phenomenon. And a tragic car crash left this boy in a coma until a dog brought him back to life.
What? He licked me, then I woke up.
At that point, it started to appear.
They had large, dark eyes, claw-like hands.
I began sensing and knowing and feeling.
I do believe in life after death. I mean, I've been there.
We have not scratched the surface of what the mind can do.
It's a connection with the unknown.
Bethadone also had a great line in her video from last night. She was talking about she was having problems getting some of her medication. And she's like, so I wish my psychologist would, like, you know, act like their life depends on it. And then she paused and then she looked at the camera and she's like, 'cause it's gonna.
Welcome to Sightings. I'm Tim White. Although few psychic detectives have actually solved a crime, they can provide help to law enforcement and at least one important service to families of victims. One good lead from a psychic can often reopen a case where the police have reached a dead end.
Oh my God, you know it would be amazing, ATF Media, to watch that movie Rubber with Mike Chuddy about the sentient tire that goes on a killing spree. I bet he could offer a lot of insight into whether or not that represents the reality of what, like, a rogue tire, you know, what would happen if it was a real rogue tire.
Psychic detectives have played an important role in the still unsolved murder of 18-year-old Caitlin Arquette. She was gunned down behind the wheel of her car in Albuquerque, New Mexico in July 1989. At first, police believed Caitlin was the victim of a random act of violence. But as investigators delved into the case, they soon realized there was nothing random about this murder. Even the most seasoned detectives were stunned by the strange twists and turns.
How do I know about which film? Courtney needs to hire a psychic detective. She needs to hire me. Can you imagine a better storyline than Courtney turning Thorpe Alert into a treasure hunting channel?
In this case, psychic detectives provided intriguing leads, and eeriest of all, what appeared to be Caitlin's own attempts to reach out from the grave with information about her murderer. Crucial details allegedly from beyond directly paralleled those in a murder mystery written by her own mother.
Right off the bat, he'd be like, this is very unrealistic. I do not believe a tire could become sentient under any circumstances whatsoever.
Under the pen name Lois Duncan, Lois Arquette is a successful mystery writer whose novels are filled with intrigue and terror. But there was no greater horror for Lois than discovering an uncanny link between details of her daughter's death and one of her own novels.
I didn't put any connection together in the beginning at all. It wasn't until one thing after another began to occur that I suddenly realized that I had more or less written the story of our own true life horror story. In Don't Look Behind You, I based the personality of my heroine April upon Kate. April was chased by a hitman in a Camaro. That book was published in June 1989, and in July 1989, Kate was chased down and shot to death by a triggerman in a Camaro. The most shocking thing of all to us was that when we read in the police file the Hispanic man who was arrested, his name was Mike. Everybody called him Vamp. And in Don't Look Behind You, the hitman who chased down April was named Mike Vamp.
As police probed Caitlin's brutal killing, they discovered the young woman had a secret life centered around her boyfriend, an alleged gang member believed to be involved in illegal activities. But investigators were unable to establish a direct link between either the boyfriend or his gang and Caitlin's murder. With the police department at a dead end, in desperation, Caitlin's mother turned to local psychic
Another
Betty
Arquette
Minch.
scandal.
I rang the doorbell, and this middle-aged woman answered the door, and I looked at her. I had an instant feeling that I knew her. It wasn't that I'd met her. I had invented her. She was
Wow,
physically
what a
identical
hairdo.
to Ann Summers, the psychic detective in my book, The Third
Ann
Eye.
Summers, psychic detective.
Betty Minch considers herself a bridge between the living and the dead. Minch
She's doing the
claims
Mr.
she can pick up
Miyagi.
messages telepathically while in a meditative trance, channeling the words of the dead through the keys of her typewriter.
Usually I get a lot of color moving in my head. Then out of that, sometimes there will come maybe an image. And that's when the words seem to want to start pouring into my head. It was a very clear contact with Caitlin. She was right there. We had the idea that Caitlin was in some kind of trouble, that there were...
Betty Minch is an asshole for doing this, for telling this bullshit story.
other things going on that the family wasn't quite aware of.
Like, if you're gonna scam people, whatever, but don't scam people over, like, their dead relatives. Come on.
Amazingly
That's
enough,
cruel.
it appeared that Caitlin was conducting her own murder investigation from beyond the grave. Some of the messages Betty Minch claimed to be receiving provided police with important new leads. Investigators soon received an anonymous tip from someone who'd seen one of the Crime
over
Stoppers posters the
5,500 in
Arquette
reward
family
money.
had placed
Oh,
around
5,000,
Albuquerque.
my bad.
Arrests were made that proved psychic Betty Minch had been dead right.
She told us that the people who were arrested would have been driving a lowrider car. There would be 2 men in the front seat, 1 in the back seat, that there would be no eyewitnesses, but that arrests would be made because the men would be heard bragging, that our best help might come from somebody in the media, and she identified who that person would be, an investigative reporter named Mike Gallagher.
But there was insufficient evidence to hold the 3 suspects, and they were released. Desperate for more evidence, Lois contacted Noreen Rainier, a well-respected psychic detective from
Nice
Maitland,
vagina
Florida.
necklace.
Working with a police sketch artist, Rainier attempted to create a drawing based on impressions she claimed to be receiving from Caitlin.
I have to get their scent. I have to pick up their vibes. And somehow something personal that was on at the time.
Oh, thanks for coming by, Dante's Game Room. Wasn't there a video game where you could kind of do that had like telekinesis and like remote viewing and like stuff like that?
Time of the
Like a
crime gives
psyops
me
game?
more information. I can pick up the scent of Katie psychically.
During Noreen's session, Lois listened in on the phone from 900 miles away.
I was sitting in Albuquerque knowing that Noreen was doing this.
Wow,
And
Sharon
I knew
Stone.
what the alleged trigger man looked like because he'd been arrested. I was trying to concentrate on Kate, and I was saying, tell Mother why you were killed. Was it a random shooting, as the police think, or was it something else? Send me a symbol, send me a message through Noreen Rainier. And the picture Noreen sent me was a sketch of Mike Vamp, the hitman.
I think that's it. Like, if I don't remember for sure, but I think there was like you played like a character that had like a bluish hue thing on the cover maybe. But yeah, you could like take over guards' minds and make them like throw switches or delete themselves.
And in Don't Look Behind You, exactly as he appeared on the jacket of the British edition of that
Hey,
book.
Randy.
Everything was there, even the little scar between the eyebrows. Like seeing something had been copied from the jacket. And I just started to shake. I couldn't stop shaking.
Lois was shocked. Caitlin had been the only member of the Arquette family to see the new book jacket of the British edition.
I just was very confused when she was telling me I got some man on a book jacket. I'm saying, what are you talking? But then it made sense that Kate was telling us it was a hit. It wasn't a random shooting. It was a planned killing. It wasn't random. And that's what we needed to know.
Even more startling is a tape recording Noreen made as she supposedly channeled Caitlin's own description
I don't
of
even
her final
understand
hours.
this one. This
It's
is too
Noreen's
much
voice,
for
but
my brain
Caitlin's
right now.
words.
I'm meeting somebody at a shopping center with a C in it. I went up the hill towards the north to that big place up there, to this, I want to call it the Desert Castle.
is a guess.
There's just an important person there that I'm not supposed to know is there.
Okay.
I saw things that I shouldn't have seen. They had to make sure that there was no way I would ever talk. And this was a way of silencing me. My crime that was committed against me was to silence me. I'll never be silenced. I'm not a bad person. I'm just young, and I just was curious. I was a good daughter to your mother. I told you almost everything. Almost.
The incredible revelations from psychics Minch and Rainier prompted Lois to write "Who Killed My Daughter?"
Oh,
and
boy.
while the police have not yet solved Caitlin's homicide, Lois is
this a murder case or a book infomercial?
encouraged by one psychic message Betty Minch believes she received.
She said
Wicked
that Kate
Crystal
was sending
Collection.
a symbol. That the symbol was a wolf with a collar around its
Hey,
neck,
Michaelville.
its head jerked back, and the message was that Kate was very sure that the wolf who had been after her was soon to be caught and collared.
The message was particularly significant to Lois, who originally entitled her book, One to the Wolves.
Oh, my God.
I couldn't explain any of this. All I could say to myself was, it's happening. Somehow it's happening.
It's happening.
I have now come to believe that there must be some kind of transition point where it is possible for the dead to communicate with the living, perhaps when they have some very, very strong message to get across. I think Kate was killed because she was getting ready to tell the truth, and she couldn't do it herself, and now she wanted me to do it for her.
Lois Arquette is hoping police or psychic detectives will soon find out what horrible facts Caitlin knew.
Police
and who
or
stopped her from telling the
psychic
truth.
detectives.
Coming up next, the frightening Men in Black phenomenon surrounding UFO contact.
I'm not afraid of them because they haven't done anything to us yet.
But what are their motives?
There have been a few cases where individuals have died under mysterious circumstances.
And later, what miraculous power brought this boy back to life? Some believe it was this dog.
UFO insiders call them MIBs. That's an acronym for Men in Black. These Men in Black are one of the least known and yet most disturbing elements of the UFO experience. The phenomenon is reported worldwide, and the stories that
This is a great show to watch getting high, though, for sure.
witnesses tell are remarkably similar. Seeing a UFO can be an exhilarating experience, but for some, that excitement soon turns into desperate paranoia. After a sighting, some witnesses report that they're threatened and harassed by mysterious thugs known to UFO investigators as MIBs, Men in Black. Just who
MIBs.
are these Men in Black? Where do they come from? And why do they seem to be tracking and spying on those who've had a close encounter?
There it was. It's a long, lit-up, cigar-shaped object heading just over the rooftop. Then it moved out of sight, and I went back home. And when I got home, my wife said, "You just got a phone call." I said, "A phone call?" And it said that if you talk to the media about this, that your daughter will die.
Immediately following a UFO sighting, the strange encounters with MIBs begin.
They would walk in seemingly from nowhere, be driving a car that may be as old as 25 years. It would be immaculate, shiny, without a mark on it. The individual, in several cases, drove
might
down
be
to
a
the end of the
dowsing
street,
club.
turned, the guy ran down after them, and they were completely gone.
Men dressed in black, driving black cars, reportedly follow and sometimes even threaten UFO witnesses, and their motives appear to be strangely sinister.
Witnesses
wait
driving
a
home
minute.
from having lunch at a restaurant.
What other reason is there? What other, I mean, isn't threatening people pretty much always sinister?
Have reported seeing a UFO. Before they could get home, they had cars waiting for them, warning them not to talk about the case. An investigator was approached by a very Saturn-looking man. He said, "You know, people that look for UFOs sometimes find problems. There have been a few cases where individuals have died under mysterious circumstances."
Reports of contact with MIBs seem to follow.
There are some fairly, like, you know, if you believe in it, they're considered to be like haunted cemeteries, pretty reasonably distanced from here.
A definite pattern.
But if I go there and like nothing happens, then like there's no one to talk to, and it's, You know, that's a pretty high social skill check to talk to someone that's mourning at a grave.
And occur throughout the world. One horrified witness was harassed by bibs after sighting a UFO near Toronto, Canada.
And it was about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. There was a knock on the door. I opened the door, and there was this very odd-looking man standing there. He had a photograph album in his left arm, and he didn't say anything for a full minute. He was about 5'6". He was extremely thin. He had a slightly enlarged head. His face was a very strange olive hue. He wore a black turtleneck. He wore black pants. He was dressed entirely in black. His eyes were not oriental looking. They were extremely long. They literally wrapped around his temples. I have never seen eyes like that. Those eyes held me. They held my attention. They seemed to be boring into me. I felt very intruded upon on a mental level by those eyes.
The Men in Black cases, for the most part, have stirred up great amounts of paranormal.
I don't know whether this guy, I like the idea of him better as Ron Swanson or Dan the Beast Severn.
Paranoia. In many cases, these people have attempted to pass themselves off either as government agents or in some cases Air Force officers. At one point, the FBI was very heavily involved in tracking these cases down and attempting to arrest someone, but no one was ever caught.
Composite drawings created from witness testimony lead researchers to believe that MIBs could be aliens who have come to Earth to silence people who know too much about UFOs. In Russia, one witness reported being harassed and physically transformed by a MIB. Professor Paul Stonehill translated the Russian newspaper story about the woman's MIB experience.
His touch was paralyzing and left effects upon the body of those whom he touched. The daughter, she became magnetic and she would attract metals. And like her hands became sort of electric conductors. Her touch caused electric shock. This is taking place now because the article is from April of 1992.
MIB encounters are so disturbing, investigators fear many valuable witnesses might never come forward. Those who do believe their lives are in danger and claim MIB surveillance intensifies when they contact the media.
I think what has happened is they've gone to the black helicopters. So I think that the Men in Black have just
Shirley Coyne
left their black Cadillacs behind and taken up black helicopters.
That's what Courtney was thinking this morning at the storage unit. Shirley Coyne's
helicopters, which have been described almost as a black Huey-type Army helicopter with no numbers visible, have appeared almost silently with no helicopter noise that you associate with it.
Fake death. He's taking it seriously.
Shirley and
Oh,
George
look at
Coyne
this.
are the Midwest directors of the Mutual UFO Network, MUFON, a UFO research organization. The Coynes claim that they are being tailed by this silent black helicopter devoid of the necessary FAA identification numbers. This video, shot by Shirley Coyne, is the only footage of an alleged MIB encounter.
Well, this is the day we had a meeting, and the copter met us about halfway between Flint and Flushing and followed us all the way to our meeting place.
I'm not afraid of them because they haven't done anything to us yet. And I feel the more vocal I am, the less.
Is it possible that aliens with a secret agenda are harassing UFO witnesses? Or could MIBs be cleverly disguised humans trying to silence those who've had close encounters? Investigators continue to search for answers.
It's just something that there is no explanation for. And by working on these cases and trying to use a scientific and investigative formula, we try to get to the bottom of them, but sometimes there doesn't seem to be a bottom.
Coming up next, do animals have miraculous healing powers? Some say a dog brought this boy out of a near-fatal coma.
He licked me, then I woke up.
Researchers
Oh, good. I wanted to make sure I was back in time for the healing dog.
are just beginning to understand the complex nature of psychic ability. In their efforts to prove that ESP exists, the most startling evidence has come not from human subjects, but from animals.
I love Reflection.
They
What a
found
great
that
band.
family pets possess mystifying talents which conventional science can't explain.
July 19th, 1989. I'll never forget the date. We were in a car accident.
Oh, shit.
My daughter Lauren was killed in the car accident. I broke my neck.
1 David 109.
And Neil sustained a
Amelia
traumatic
Stortz.
head injury, and it put him in a coma for 3 months.
Lucky is not a word Amelia Stortz would use to describe her son Neil on that tragic night 3 years ago. But Neil was lucky to be alive.
He had suffered a very severe brain injury, and he was in a very deep coma when he came to us.
Catherine
Neil
Bonte.
survived, but doctors did not know if he would ever regain consciousness.
He could have been in it forever. That would be a vegetative state. And what happens in a vegetative state is that their brainstem kind of kicks in and takes over their heart and lungs and their gastrointestinal system, and their eyes are open and they have sleep-wake cycles, but they don't have the ability to follow commands and they're not aware of their environment.
In a seemingly hopeless case, where modern medicine can't provide all the answers, alternative forms of
turn
treatment
to
may be called
animal
for.
doctors.
Since 1982, the Animal-Assisted Therapy Program has been providing Houston area hospitals with animal companionship for patients who...
Oh, yeah. I remember Rookie of the Year. Remember the other one, King? A kid in King Arthur's court?
may not be responding to more traditional methods of health care.
When patients have had brain injuries, they're oftentimes either comatose or very disoriented. And having animals around, we know from studies, causes people's blood pressure to lessen and they become calmer. It kind of pushes the right buttons, so to speak, and makes it more likely that the patient's going to wake up. There are magical and miraculous things that happen all the time that defy medical science. I don't think that animals and humans working together is very explainable. And when you see something like this, it really is kind of magical.
Neil had been in a coma for 3 months, so animal-assisted therapy was one long shot his family felt was definitely worth trying.
When your child is laying there in a coma, you resort to just about anything, you know? You try anything.
With all conventional treatments exhausted, the one remaining hope was to consult a rather unique specialist by the name of Rex.
Rex was part of a regular visitation team as part of our animal-assisted therapy program, and he happened to get up on Neil's bed and lick his face, and within several hours after that, Neil began to speak.
He licked me, and then I woke up.
It's pretty amazing. But if you're going to credit anything or anybody, why not credit Rex, the wonder dog?
Was Neil's
Rex the
recovery
Wonder
a
Dog.
miracle?
Salute.
Or could it have been the result of a power animals possess that we do not fully understand yet?
I mean, this was a really big tragedy, you know, to have a little boy that's in a coma and his little sister was killed and his mother was also injured in the accident. And it was just, you know, too much for most of us to even conceive. Neil had a lot of previous experiences with animals and really loved animals, and there's at least a...
I still can't believe how rude he was to the pizza guy, man, that made him all those flavors of pizza and sat down with him and gave him the story of all of them. And like George just would not put his pizzas over at all.
Hunch that it was a very normalizing experience for Neil and something that he could relate to instead of us saying, open your eyes, close your hands, you know, yelling commands at him. It was really kind of neat that an animal kind of brought him around.
Yeah, didn't it have like a heart-shaped crystal butt plug?
The extraordinary and inexplicable bond between humans and animals. Researchers are just beginning to study it. But Neil Stortz has already found his proof in a magical friend named Rex.
Rex the Wonder Dog.
Is a hero because he woke me up.
Thanks for joining us. For Sightings, I'm Tim White. Good night.
All right, let's watch one more.
Next time.
I want to go in blind. I don't want to preview.
The following program deals with a controversial subject. The theories expressed are not the only possible interpretation. The viewer is invited to make a judgment based on all available information. Tonight on Sightings, reincarnation. Is there another life after death?
I was a crew member on the Titanic.
The latest hypnotherapy breakthroughs could make you a believer in past lives. Then, if your travel plans bring you anywhere near this highway, think again.
At that particular day, there were 15 who died.
What deadly curse haunts this stretch of road? And our ongoing hunt for proof of ghosts takes our team of investigators to 2 new paranormal hotspots.
Oh my God, it's going off the scale. No, right as I was coming over here, it went off the scale.
You just have to say there's something extraordinary going on here.
At that point, it started to appear.
They had large, dark eyes, claw-like hands.
I began sensing and knowing and feeling.
I do believe in life after.
I began sensing, what a great quote. I began sensing, I've forgotten it already. Sensing, knowing, and feeling. Sensing, knowing, and feeling. How profound. I began seeing, knowing, and feeling.
After death. I mean, I've been there.
We have not scratched the surface of what the mind can do.
It's a connection with the unknown.
Hey, Tom Space, what does this have to do with the Thorpes? We're not sure yet, but we're looking into this reincarnation angle.
During construction of a highway, the New Jersey Department of Transportation unearthed evidence of an ancient Indian settlement. Native Americans warned that anyone involved in paving over this sacred site would be cursed, a warning that turned out to be more than just an idle threat. Many cultures still maintain a powerful belief that certain places on Earth are sacred and should not, must not, be tampered with. Burial sites are among the most sacred of all places, and there is almost a universal belief that the dead must be left to rest in peace. If they're not, a curse may follow those who dare violate the sacred ground.
I did say when Ruby
Some Native American tribes follow these traditions to this day. They warn of grave consequences.
Well, I went to the dispensary yesterday before I went to the gift shop, and so I haven't had, like, I've been complaining recently because I haven't had, like, strong indicas for a while, so, like, I'm on the strong indica today.
Consequences for those who disturb their honored dead. Members of the Delaware Indian Nation believe this stretch of Highway 55 near Deptford Township in New Jersey was built over an ancient Indian burial ground, prompting what has become known as the curse of Highway 55.
To us, our ancestors are sacred, and anything that is connected with our ancestors, the whole area to us is sacred, and we do not defile it in any way, and we don't want anyone else to defile it. Well, they just laughed at me.
Too.
So I raised my hands to the heavens, and I prayed to the Great Spirit,
only 10 milligrams.
and I prayed to my ancestors. Then all these things happened.
They'd like
then the winds came up.
The, like, Native American drums are, like, really playing into it.
And blew vehicles off the road with people.
I'm gonna transform into, like, a ghost owl at any moment.
With their workers in them. And I think that at that particular day, there were 15 who died as a result of it. It was not that I wanted the people to die. It was that I wanted the site to be left alone.
In the months following the chief's curse, a 34-year-old crewman was run over and killed by an asphalt roller truck. A Department of Transportation inspector died on the job site of a brain aneurysm. A sudden gust of wind blew yet another worker off a bridge, leaving him paralyzed. Within 3 weeks, many more construction workers and their families seemed to fall victim to the curse. The sheer number of tragedies seemed to be more than coincidence. Workers and their families are still frightened to speak out publicly. The New Jersey Department of Transportation, however, denies that there was anything unusual about the deaths and injuries that have occurred. Highway 55 was already well under construction when Gloucester County...
Ben would say they were victims of the highway. Try to remember. No, I'm not going to try to remember it by memory. No.
Historian Robert Harper first heard rumors about what was happening at the site.
And it seems that several of the bulldozer operators were in a depth.
Ananje, are you saying he's like Joe Scarpa, that the native thing is just a gimmick?
For tavern.
Ed Begley
They were
Jr.
loose of mouth. They were boasting about how they had disturbed these Indian graves.
Denied access by the New Jersey Department of Transportation, Dr. Harper became obsessed with Highway 55. Unable to stop construction through government channels, Dr. Harper and the Historical Society brought their findings to Chief Wyandotte, the spiritual leader of the Eastern Delaware Nation and a direct descendant of the ancient people who lived on the site in question.
They came to me as the shaman and asked me what I could do about it. So I went to them and I talked to them, and the state archaeologist said, oh, there's nothing here except some pieces of pottery and items of that nature.
The Department of Transportation admits they were surprised to find what they believe is an Indian.
I was so close to doing an entire, like, deep dive on the Safe Ark right before she privated everything again.
In campsite. They pulled thousands of artifacts out of the site, but deny finding evidence of human remains.
Most of the time we know what's out there. But in case once in a while there is something that we do miss, we do have a procedure, and it works. Construction was temporarily halted, and that site was also investigated. This is one of the earliest artifacts we found. It's either a knife blade or a spear point. This dates from roughly about 6,000 BC. The few bone pieces we did find, and I'll be glad to show them to you, are not human. They happen to be deer. So there was absolutely no evidence of cemeteries or any other type of burial.
Chief Wyandotte doesn't agree. He believes the site is sacred, and anyone who disturbs it is cursed.
I said, if there was a village, then within 100 yards in one direction or the other, there would have to be a burial site. Because after all, they didn't have horses, they didn't have any other means of transportation, so they had to carry the body and bury it.
Okay,
The soils are
Chief. I thought I had it for a second. I'll think of it.
fairly acidic, and organic remains do not last very long, 200-300 years tops, before they completely disintegrate into the soil.
So I said, well, even if there's no bones left, there's still...
Wyandotte, Chief Wyandotte.
It was a burial site. So how do you know? I said, how do I know? I said, these are my ancestors. That's how I know.
The bones are no longer there. The descendants are no longer there. We do not know if somebody was buried there or not.
And I said, how would you like it if I sent some of my warriors with bulldozers and bulldozed your grandparents up? What's done has been done.
With some of my warriors.
And what's been done can't be undone.
Highway 55 has been completed. Whether or not it was built on sacred Delaware Indian burial ground may never be known, but there are still disturbing questions. Is there a connection between Wyandotte's curse and the documented tragedies that occurred along Highway 55? And will the curse continue to claim victims here?
This is a lit episode.
As far as I was concerned, it wasn't a curse. It was a prayer. I prayed to the Great Spirit, and he answered me.
Coming up next, reincarnation.
Damn.
Is there another life after death?
I was a crew member on the Titanic.
The latest hypnotherapy
bullshit
breakthroughs could
artist
make you a
coming up.
believer in past lives. And our
I'm not even
ongoing
gonna
ghost
suffer that
investigation takes us to 2 new paranormal hotspots.
You just have to say there's something extraordinary going on here.
What happens to us after we die? Many religions believe that we're reincarnated, that the soul is transferred to another body and we live again. And now, some modern researchers believe proof of reincarnation exists. Through hypnosis, many people claim they can recall past lives.
I absolutely believe in reincarnation.
I was a Japanese man.
I've been a silversmith. I've been, had many past lives as warriors.
I worked a printing press, and this was in about 1780s.
Over 3,000 people claim.
Yeah, I was Genghis Khan and King Richard and Robin Hood.
To have recalled past lives working with author and reincarnation teacher Betty Binder.
Reincarnation is the process by which the soul, which is our spiritual essence, at the end of a lifetime, when the body dies.
What is it, I-80? Maybe we can find a documentary or a YouTube video about it sometime.
Leaves that
Haunted
lifetime,
highways.
leaves that body, gets into a new body and starts a new lifetime.
Does reincarnation exist? Under hypnosis, Betty's clients try to reach back in time to a time before they were born. They are searching their unconscious for evidence of past lives. The technique is called regression therapy. Once hypnotized, subjects seem to relive previous incarnations, recalling historical events, people, and foreign places they have no knowledge of. Subjects say their previous lives come to them like snapshots from the past.
The philosophy behind reincarnation is that the soul has chosen to get into a physical body in order to learn something. We are choosing to incarnate in each lifetime because we have certain lessons to learn in each lifetime.
Regression therapy.
Did you explain to them that it was a past life thing and that you needed that money in your current life?
Therapists work with people who want to go back in time and explore the possibility that they've lived before. The first step involves total relaxation of mind and body.
Now take a stream of white light down through the top of your head. Let it run through your body head to toe as if you were sitting under a waterfall.
Some people try past life therapy out of curiosity. Others hope to learn if problems in this life are linked to traumatic events in a...
Maybe I could get like a palm reading or something on an IRL. There's got to be like a witchcraft-esque store somewhere around here.
Past life. One of Betty's clients sought help for his clinical depression after traditional therapy failed.
Betty and I went back to a past life when I was happy flying, which happened to be a World War II fighter pilot. So, for instance, something that gave me pain or gives me pain during this lifetime is cause for exploration of past lives. I'm in the cockpit, October.
I think I was one of those bonobos in my past life. I feel like I have like bonobo energy.
3rd, 1940. Down below us, maybe 3,000 or 4,000 feet, are some, looks like German fighter planes. I begin firing my gun, and just as I do so, I feel some sensation like...
I probably won't be making any European content anytime soon.
Some thudding into my plane. I am hit, but I don't feel pain. I'm just incapacitated in my plane. I've lost control of my plane. I'm at full throttle going straight into the ocean. Disintegrated. I'm floating. In 1988, my entire world fell apart, and I went through some traditional therapy. It was at that point that I was really grasping at straws to figure out what I was going to do. I guess you would call it a clinical depression. And it was at the point that I started working with Betty, incorporating this therapy, that things really began to change.
Daryl Rooney had a profound fear of drowning. Working with Betty Binder, he recalled past events that could explain his debilitating phobia.
Holding on to a railing. It's cold and wet. I'm angry and frightened because I'm stuck here.
Just visions of you
I'm looking out into the ocean, and
Titanic, man.
I know that all the lifeboats are out there. I was a crew member on the Titanic, down in the engine room.
Oh my gosh. Randy, I was just, the other day I added a bunch of episodes of Nightstand to my, to watch on a future stream.
The ship is in trouble. And I don't want to die. I don't want to go down with this ship. I can remember screaming all around me, and then all of a sudden, things turning upside down, and the most disturbing thing is timber creaking and stretching and cracking ways that it's not supposed to.
Up until then, I've felt a sense of gravity, and now it's all upside down and ropes. I'm caught up in ropes. I'm being dragged under.
This is horrible.
I can feel a rope wrapped around here, and I can see portholes of the ship. I'm being pulled under by these ropes. I'm being pulled down with the ship. And this is a really frightening thing. I watched myself tied up in the ropes go down, down, down.
It was his
and I can see the stern of the ship, and it disappears into this black fog water.
And now he cosplays full time as, what's that guy's name? Riker or Piker on Star Trek?
The Titanic sank in 1912, 40 years before Darrell was supposedly reborn in his present life.
Supposedly.
During regression, he was able to reveal the name of the sailor his soul had previously inhabited.
I just opened my mouth, and this word came out. Brooks. Brooks, my name was Brooks. We later got the crew list and found the names on the crew list, which was astounding to me. That moment of seeing them on there just made me think, this is real.
Darrell has drowned in 3 past lives that I'm aware of, and they were all in the middle of an ocean, and they were all one after another. His death scene is a very profound one because he had not expected to die. It was not his intention as a soul. He was furious.
There was all of this terror and all of this emotion during the regression talking about this. And the minute that I separated, all the emotion went away. And I was at peace, and I was calm, and, you know, I felt tranquil.
When you go to most religions in the world, you'll find that reincarnation is something that most people have been brought up with. The Buddhists, the Hindus, a lot of others. Early Christian fathers and the early Hebrews believed in reincarnation.
The ancient belief in reincarnation is challenged by modern science. But while regression therapy may not be proof of past lives, it has been successful in helping some people deal with problems in this life.
Coming up next, our ongoing ghost research takes our team of investigators to 2 new paranormal hotspots.
Oh my God, it's going off the scale. No, right as I was coming over here, it went off the scale.
And haunting phenomena. Tonight, we follow director Lloyd Auerbach as he investigates 2 reported hauntings and attempts to gather evidence that ghosts actually exist.
I'm rooting for him.
Ghostbusters was one of the first films that really hit the entire public consciousness with a comedy that was clearly not real. We know that stuff's not real, guys. We know that there's not a marshmallow man walking down Central Park West. What do you really do?
Until his death, Tony was everyone's favorite bartender at the Banta Inn near San Francisco. Locals believe his spirit haunts the restaurant still. But Tony's not a frightening, malicious ghost. His trademark is mischief.
There was a fellow staring at me there. I went through the door of the kitchen, and he was gone.
I saw a figure in the mirror, and I turned to look at the floor where that person should have been standing, and there was nothing there.
All of a sudden, I felt this.
Hey, TJ.
Like somebody took their finger up the back of my leg all the way up, and I turned around, there was nobody there. And it was
after that, the guy in beer right next to me tipped over, spun around 3 times. The guy then
and all of a sudden, the CDs started flipping by themselves. He just flipped a couple times.
He loved Patsy Cline, and it would come on all the time.
Ghosts tend to react to situations as if they were people, living and breathing people.
It was the oddest thing. Everyone in the bar loved Patsy Cline, and for some reason, her music was frequently playing on the jukebox.
One of the reasons is they don't know they're dead. They're in total denial. We have a lot of physical things happening that seem to relate to Tony's behavior when he was alive. One of the things that Tony was apparently fond of doing was playing with the money in the cash register and stacking the change so that it was a nice orderly stacks in the change bin. And here, when you just toss money in a change bin, obviously close the door, open it back and forth, it's not going to stack automatically. And yet, they've been opening the drawer for a few years, and the change seems to be stacking by itself.
You can throw it in and turn around the next second, and it's all stacked in there all nice and neat.
In the search for proof, investigators test Tony's favorite table with a magnetometer. They're looking for abnormal levels of electromagnetism.
Oh my God, it's going off the scale. No, right as I was coming over here, it went off the scale. It went up to about 100.
Unlike other hauntings Lloyd Auerbach has investigated, the people here aren't frightened.
One of the bartenders told me that she had pretty much gotten a couple of guys who were very...
That's what they found out on the bar rescue episode, was that the ghost was drinking all the profits.
Very drunk out of here and come back in, and she didn't lock the door behind her, which she thought as an afterthought. It turned out to have locked itself.
And according to eyewitnesses, Tony is not the only ghost that haunts the Banta Inn.
From what I have been told, Margaret was an old regular in the 50s and 60s. She passed away. She died of a heart attack in the building. And that she absolutely loved the Banta Inn. She like lived down here, and that she didn't want to leave either. Margaret plays. She likes levitation. She likes throwing objects.
The man came and ordered a hamburger, and the bartender asked him something about how he wanted it done. And at that moment, from across the room, where there was no one sitting, an ashtray picked up off the table, flew across the room, past the guy's head, and dropped down in front of the bartender.
Even Lloyd has experienced what seems to be Margaret's temper.
The chandelier started moving by itself, and there was no way for that to have happened if the other one wasn't already moving, unless somebody rigged it, and that's the first thing we did check.
In another haunting case at the Moss Beach Distillery in California, a deluge of eyewitness reports warranted more sophisticated diagnostic tools.
Yeah, what we're installing are 3 different types of motion detectors: an infrared detector, a microwave detector, and an ultrasonic detector.
In addition to the detection devices, Auerbach has assembled a team of psychics.
I like the vibe of this restaurant.
Who will attempt to make contact with the spirits here.
You may have a lot of person witnesses, but no camera witnesses to objectify the actual phenomena that's going on. Photographic evidence doesn't exist, and there are no good photographs because we're dealing with a purely mental phenomenon where the ghost is somehow transmitting an image into your brain and bypassing the eyes altogether.
Apparently, it was built as a residence to begin with. There was a garage downstairs, and then it became a booming restaurant and a bordello, we think. There was a piano player here, and every evening a beautiful woman wearing blue would come to listen to him play, and apparently they were having an affair. The only problem was that she was married, and her husband was very jealous. And one night they were all here at the same time, and a fight broke out, and they ended up on the beach, and a stabbing took place, and apparently the lady in blue, was killed. And then she came back here to haunt the place.
The blue lady is quite comfortable.
That's the payoff of the sitcom, is that Lalo can never successfully haunt anyone because he's always 8 minutes behind.
With us, and we're comfortable with her. We'll protect her, I think, as much as we can. She pulls a lot of pranks. I guess one that I can remember is the funniest is that a waitress in the kitchen towards the end of the evening got smacked in the rear end with a spatula, and there was nobody in the kitchen.
We recently installed a heating and air conditioning system, and I spent the better part of one day programming these thermostats so they would go on precisely the time pre-designated.
Have I ever had a ghost experience? I have kind of a story, but I'll have to think about it. I'll have to be in a better state of mind to be able to remember it.
And so forth. The very next day, I came into the restaurant, and every single setting and the thermostat had been changed. And it would take at least 30 minutes for somebody to do that if you knew how to do it and if you knew how to unlock it.
Coffee machines will turn on all by themselves and start dumping coffee out. At one point or another, I think everyone on our waitstaff has heard someone calling their name. I think it's just mischief. She probably gets bored and likes to play a couple of pranks. Let us know that she's around.
Despite their battery of detection devices and psychic input, the Blue Lady of Moss Beach did not appear during their investigation. But Lloyd Auerbach is encouraged by the data that has been collected.
There is definitely something anomalistic or psychic or whatever you want to call it going on in this place. We can go in every few months, let's say, and we can ask if anything new has happened and start really getting a fuller picture.
Is the Lady in Blue imaginary, or could her failure to materialize be just one of her pranks?
I personally believe this is happening because I take a lighthearted approach, and since most people
We couldn't capture the Blue Lady, but we promise it was just a prank.
have a sense of humor, I think most ghosts do too.
Thanks for joining us. For Sightings, I'm Tim White. Good night.
Well, what a lineup of shows. Thanks, Henry Winkler. Wow. All right. Well, I'm going to go. Thank you for hanging out to watch all these weird episodes with me. I appreciate it. And I am going to... I actually have some, maybe, I might post... I did a series of videos on making homemade ice cream, but I don't know when I'm going to start posting them, but I'll eventually post them. But anyway...